Pocket, breath like a match, velvet in my voice and skill in my grasp. I follow the moonlight into a steady hand, walk through the flame until both understand. When I ask who I am, I answer with light. Ignite your weekends, set our shadows on fire. Ignite your weekends, that tenderness meet desire. Ignite your weekends, choose now we rise higher. Ignite your weekends, oh yeah, ignite your weekends.
I used to push louder, call that being strong. Now strength is patient and patience moves along. I hold the rage and the lullaby in one key. In hard times I show up steady awake. The hours of posture, practice and refine.
Hands like thunder, hands like rain, both have place.
I flip fear into fuel.
Turn silence into grace. Ignition is a choice, not a single bright spark. I carry my past and shine through the dark. Ignite your weekends, set our shadows on fire. Ignite your weekends, let tenderness meet desire. Ignite your weekends, choose how we rise higher. Ignite your weekends, we are the flame, we light the night, we light the night. Ignite your weekends.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I was just looking at that Ignite Phoenix Rising thing. It looks very predatory.
Does it?
To me it does. Which is fine. I'm not just making a note.
Very masculine.
Yeah,
So I see it's raining where you are.
it is.
Yeah. It's 120,000 here in Phoenix.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, we are picking up today where we left off, talking about fatflation and the simp epidemic. What was interesting is, we highlighted MLD, Modern Life Dating, his video that he did, his presentation on the Fresh and Fit podcast. And he actually commented on our video and he's like, hey, I want to come on. I want to clarify some things. I want to explain, which I thought was awesome. And we said, yeah. And he's actually here right now. So we're going to welcome him into the live stream. Yo.
Gentlemen, how are
doing?
you?
Good.
Very good.
Good morning from the Philippines. It's 4:00 in the morning here, but I'm awake. I'm ready to go.
All right. Nice shirt, man. Holy shit.
Thanks. You know, it's funny. This is my most commented on shirt, and this was like a $12 knockoff shirt I got in Korea like 7 years ago.
That's funny. It's just so vibrant.
Yeah. I'm surprised the colors haven't faded after all these years, but I like it. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing good. Actually, this is the first time we've actually met face to face. So nice to meet you. I have watched some of your videos. I did a little research. I think we have a lot in common. A lot of the stuff we talk about is similar. But can you kind of give us just a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do and all that?
Absolutely. So my name is Jonathan, and my fans call me MLD from Modern Life Dating on YouTube, and my website here, modernlifedating.com. I have a bachelor's in science and psychology, and I have been doing dating coaching now for 11 years exclusively on YouTube. And I specialize obviously in helping men. The reason I have so much passion about this is I was born without a dad. And so for me growing up, it was a real challenge for me to kind of find my masculinity and find like, what is it to like be a man? Like, kind of like when are you a boy and when do you become a man? So it was a really big complex I had when I was younger. And just trying, always had a chip on my shoulder because we were really poor growing up as well. But I was zoned out of this area in Orlando, Florida, like one of the richest areas at the time, Winter Park, Florida. And I was living in a, ghetto apartment with my mom and my brother and my sister, a single mom. And then I went to this school and I just saw all these rich people. They had dads, and I was just like, why do I not have this? And so I just started questioning, and I just always wanted to understand how to be successful in multiple avenues of life. And so the core message of my dating philosophy is I tell my guys, you have to be focusing on 4 things as a man to really have a well-balanced life. And I say it's make money, make muscles, learn game, and hold frame. And hold frame is about having healthy masculinity, healthy self-esteem, and healthy boundaries. Because I'm pretty sure you guys see these young Zoomer kids, they have no boundaries. These guys are complete pushovers.
Yep.
And it's just like, you guys are stepping into a predatory world. And if you don't learn to have a backbone, if you don't learn to say no and mean it and walk away from situations, people, relationships, jobs that don't serve you, you're going to be taken advantage of your whole life. So that's just my little 5-minute spiel there.
Cool. We actually call that having terms. We say men need to understand their terms, and you learn them in your 20 to 30 range. Like, what you must and must not do as a man to define yourself. You kind of learn it through trial and error. So
yeah, absolutely.
Bruce Hendricks and we're presenters at men's weekends and women's weekends where we talk about relationship basically. So I wanted to give Bruce a chance just to say hi. I don't know, he's never met you either in person, so he's in Canada.
Yeah, up here in Canada. Yeah.
What's up, Bruce?
So, I mean, not too much. I guess. I grew up with a really abusive father who died when I was 9. Right. So then I was thrown into this world of, big chip on my shoulder too, and resentment and all these different emotions. And then, being glad he died and then being guilty because of it. And because I felt, anyway, there's all these crazy shit going on. And so I really wanted to help young men when I sort of, was looking for a legacy. I wanted to help young men. And we started several camps. And then I just realized I didn't have really any influence over them. So I switched to fathers. If I can influence fathers, then that will have a huge impact on their children, how they live their lives. And then I just delved into, well, it's pretty difficult to show a man. Men are dangerously naive about women, dangerously naive. And so in our men's weekends, we explain women, their behaviors, what motivates it, what drives it. And for women, we show them a better way of being. Instead of pulling that ego out of their handbasket, the first tool weapon they have in relationship when they're struggling, they pull the ego out, which kills the relationship. We show them a better way of being that's successful. And women are way more powerful when they're in their feminine power than when they try and strap on the masculine. So we just point that out. And it's interesting because women come into the women's weekend full of ego, anger, and then by the end, whether it sticks with them or not, that we have supplementary follow-up courses because, I can't change the way a person is in 3 days, but I can give them an awareness of what's possible. And then it's kind of up to them to take the ball and try and run with it.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Anybody ever tell you look like Negan from Walking Dead?
Oh my God, yes. This woman told me that at the last men's weekend. She said that I look like Negan.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You got to carry around a baseball bat when you talk to the girls.
Yeah, leather jacket, right? Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, you know, since we're giving origin stories, I guess I'll mention that I was born in the late '70s and height of feminism. My mom and dad divorced when I was like 8 or 9 or something, and you know, I was just trained by my mom. My dad was an immigrant, you know, and he came here and he achieved the American dream from Greece. He's still alive today. He's actually in Greece right now. But you know, he was the epitome of a successful man, a competitive man, a man's man, you know, but he just was never around because he was out killing it, you know. And I was basically raised by my mom, and she trained me kind of like on how what it is that women expect, like how you treat a woman, right? And so that was how I began. And it wasn't until I was like 38 years old when I did my first men's weekend, and I realized, holy shit, I've had it wrong this whole time, you know. And to live that long and not really understand women is kind of a crazy thought. And I think that there's a lot of men that can relate to that.
Yeah.
So I like to say I'm a first gen X simp, like Gen X, you know. But anyways,
Praise God. We don't need simps, man. Simps are ruining the world, and they don't even realize it. They have no idea. And the irony of it is the simps guys, they don't understand that the women deep down inside hate them. They'll take all the resources they can get, and I covered that at the presentation. The bottom 80% of men simp for a very small percentage of the women, and then they take that money. They get Botox, they get fake boobs, they get a BBL, they get liposuction, and then they chase the chads. But the chads are the top of the food chain, and they take who they want.
Hey, every once in a while, I might have to interpret some words for Mr. Hendricks. Do you know what a BBL is?
A what?
A BBL, do you know what that is?
I don't know.
It's a Brazilian butt lift. It's a surgery that girls get to make their butts look better, supposedly look better. I don't know.
Would you say that simping is a predominantly like a younger man trait? This is something like a newer phenomenon that's coming out.
My philosophy. Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, I'm just going to finish by saying that, like, feminism, we feminized men is an epidemic. And maybe we're talking about the same thing. So these men are feminized, and when they go into long-term committed relationships, they go in there, and the woman immediately, you know, starts to test her man, right? She starts throwing all sorts of shit at him, and a feminized man will, you know, it's hard for her to fight with him because he's just like bending over backwards. Oh, yes, honey, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I didn't know you felt that way. Oh, let me change. Let me do this for you. Let me do, and that all works at the beginning, but then they just end up resenting him because, you know, many women don't like many masculine traits, you know, too aggressive or too loud, all these things. But one thing they hate is the absence of all of them.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. My personal philosophy is, as you know, in the United States of America and Canada, the single mother rate is rising. You know, it's very predominant in the Black community. I think it's like 3 out of 4 households of the African American community are single mother households. And it's currently about 25% of white households, or I think it's all households in America. And I think from my firsthand experience, because I you know, and this is not a slight at her, she did her best, but I was very abused a lot as a child by my mother and by her sister. It was like, you ever see that movie with Kathy Bates when she's like ties that guy up and she's real crazy and she's like, exactly.
James Caan.
Yeah.
She hobbles him by smashing his legs.
Yeah, and you know, they were very, very heavily involved in the church, but it was like, you go to church, you know, everybody's prim and proper, but you come home and they're like beating the hell out of you, and there's a lot of emotional chaos and stuff. And so I was also raised by 4 Cuban nannies as well. And so I just saw a lot of like female chaos, and I got like a firsthand world view into female world that a lot of men don't get. And so I think that kind of gave me a little bit of an edge, because I always had a girlfriend. When I was 13, I had a girlfriend all the way, you know, forever. So I was never really afraid to talk to women because I just saw like so much female insanity at home. I was like ready for anything, you know, and I was like just familiar with like how my mom would behave in front of the pastor. and then she would come home and beat us with a wooden spoon. I was just like, this is what's going on here, you know? And you just kind of, when
Hypocrisy.
you're well, yeah, you know, you just, and it's like, I learned very early what somebody says means nothing. It's everything that they do,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I luckily I had a mentor in the church, and he was like this Chad guy. And like I didn't even know at the time, but he was like sleeping with all the girls in the youth church, like all the youth leaders. They're all like in their, you know, 20s, 20 to 25.
Chad is a
And
stud.
yeah, Chad's like the stud, like, you know, the football star, the, you know, all that kind of stuff. And he taught me a lot about how to be a man. And I did go to 2 years of NJROTC in high school. And I also wrestled for 2 years. So I learned, you know, some stories. I learned a lot about discipline, and wrestling taught me a lot about grit, not giving up. Because I think a lot of men these days, I think it's just this, you know, it's this Netflix generation. It's this DoorDash generation. You push a button and you get what you want in a flick of a switch. And the
Instant
reality of
dopamine
life
as
is
well.
right. Like for the first 4 years that I started Modern Life Dating, I got 880 subscribers. My whole family thought I was stupid for doing this thing, and I made no money. But in the 5th year, everything exploded, and then it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And you know, the organization that I run has done a couple 7 figures, and so the need is very, very, very present for men right now. We are in a masculinity crisis, and the data shows American men ages, you know, I think it's 18 to 34 are the loneliest men in the world. And you know, the sexless rate is going up. The male suicide rate is going up. They're saying alcohol usage is going down, which is true, but it's being replaced with hard drugs. So it's not a good thing. And you know, I was just, you know, I moved back to America recently, and now I'm in the Philippines on a business trip. And, you know, it's just night and day when you come to a country where men are men and women are women. And I lived in Japan for 11 years as well. So I have a pretty international experience. You know, I speak Japanese, I speak Spanish, both self-taught, and then obviously English. So I have an idea of the world. I'm a very cultured man. I've traveled to many, many countries. I've dated in many countries, and there is something uniquely wrong with America. And I agree with what Bruce said earlier. You know, I think the men are being taught to be women, and the women are being taught to be men, and everybody's miserable and upset in America. There's a very small percentage of people that are actually happy and healthy and thriving in America, and the rest of everybody is just suffering. And, you know, everybody I knew back home when I went to America was like either on street drugs or pharmaceutical drugs, just to like cope with this torturous existence. Because I don't even know how these men are enduring personally. I didn't realize it was this bad.
Well, you know, the suicide rate is one thing. There's also a number for I think they call it like deaths or diseases of despair, where you die from something that you were using an addiction to cope with, like alcohol or drugs or something like that. So that's not even counted in the suicide number, but that's like kind of like another kind of suicide, but it's slower. Okay, before we go any further, this topic of simping, which is kind of what we were a little bit getting into, we're gonna pick that up in a minute. We're gonna have a deep dive on that at the end. I have the rest of your presentation to show, just what I clipped of it, right? Not your whole thing, but before we do that, there was a point in the last show where I was like, we were talking with Brenda, who's in backstage. We're gonna bring her out in a second. And I was like, you know, hey, he's not here to defend himself, you know, so, you know, whatever. And here you are now here. So you can answer questions or respond to anything. And there was a couple of things that I wanted to hit on, but I'm going to bring Brenda in here real quick. Hold on a second. There she is. Hey, Brenda.
Good afternoon,
Hey there.
everyone. Hi.
Welcome.
Nice
Hello,
to meet
hello. Nice to meet you.
you.
So one of the things was that there was I noticed that we got a response from both the men and the women on when you were talking about how men call you, because you're a dating coach, men call you and they're like crying on the phone. They're like depressed and they're upset. And there was a bit of a reaction on that one. It's like, oh, what's wrong with these men? Why are they crying? You know, can you address that one first?
So yeah, I think some of the comments were like, these guys were probably low value guys, but these guys are like, for example, one of the friends that I know, because I become friends with a lot of guys that I coach. These are very accomplished men. He's one of my clients is, he's a very handsome, jacked, 6 foot tall Lebanese man in New York City. I have one of my star students is actually a Greek guy. He's also in NYC, and a lot of these guys, I'm getting calls like everywhere because they're if you look at the data and you just talk to these men, and I think men are more open with men because with women they feel like they need to put on a facade because they don't want to be perceived as weak, they don't want to be perceived in a negative light. But like when we do these group coaching seminars, we kind of have like a little inside joke, like, how many days until someone publicly cries on Zoom? Because like it happens a lot. And when the guys cry, I'm just like, dude, just cry. Just let it out. Let it out. Like, it's fine. We're not going to judge you, But if you look at, like I said, all the data is very clear. Men are not having sex. Men are lonely. Men are depressed. They're using drugs. They're obese. They're overweight. There's so many things that are going wrong with the youth. And when a nation has a bunch of young people not having sex, like that's what young people do. They go out, they get drunk, they have sex, they do these things, right? And when you're having this cohort of people that is not understanding the fundamental point of life, which is to get married, have a family creation, right? Your population is heading in the wrong direction. And living in Japan, I was seeing their birth rate problem that they're having. Their issue is separate. They have a very toxic work culture. They even have a word in Japanese called karoshi, which means sudden death from overwork. So the lowest birth rate in the world is South Korea. And if you look at how many hours they average per week that they work around 60 to 80 hours per week. That's just your normal 9-to-5er. But they don't do 9 to 5. They do like 8 to 8. A lot of Asian culture is like, if your boss is present at the office, it's really bad look for you to leave before the boss leaves. So, these work cultures are extremely hierarchical. Like if I were to go out with you, for example, in Korea, and you're my senior, if I'm going to take a drink, I have to cover my mouth and look away from you to drink like that. And it's built into the culture. It's very hierarchy based.
Wow.
And so that's a separate separate problem. But America is heading that way. But what Brenda said last time was really true about the food source in America, the processed food. Now 1 in 2 Americans are projected to get cancer.
Yeah.
It's due to the ultra processed food that is literally everywhere in that country. And when I would come back to America after living in Japan, I would get nostalgic. I'd want to eat Chick-fil-A. I'd want to eat Olive Garden. I'd want to eat these things. I would eat this stuff. And then when the food was done, I would feel extremely bloated and feel depressed and feel just very, very bad compared to in Japan. Like in Japan, there are no organic food stores because everything's organic, So like there's just a very, not to get too heavy, but there's something very sinister going on in America. And men and women are being targeted by these corporations who are in bed with government to financially extort every single person for as much dollars out of them as they can get, So that's really troubling when I see it.
A whole podcast in itself right there. I think that would be an interesting one to do. Well, the original point, which, you had a lot to say there, which was great. But the thing about the men coming to you and being vulnerable. So I think it was, it's something that Bruce and I definitely experience in the circle of men that we see every week. We in person, I think Bruce and I both circle up once a week with men in person. And that's a space where we tell them, this is a space where you can take off your mask. And that I've been witness to that as well, where men have cried. And so I think it was maybe the context of just how it sounded when we first heard it. They're just calling you up on the phone and crying and stuff. But when you put it in that context of, like you're friends with these men and you get together and it's
a safe place. It's a safe place to do it.
Yeah.
And it's probably somewhat cathartic and healing to do that. And the only place you should do it is with your men, men that you trust, men that you've vetted, men that got your back, that hold you accountable. And when you said loneliness, I always think it's women cannot cure loneliness. It's men can cure loneliness. If you have I think I talked about it last show. We had that boot camp in Vancouver where the men would go out as a group and they would, take turns going to talk to a woman. And at the end of it, what they got out of it was the camaraderie of the men. That was their main benefit. When they were with men that they could talk about and share things that are going on. And especially, when you're in a long-term committed relationship with a woman, we call that, when you're single, you're the stallion. And when you're married, you become the mule. You trade your stallion life for the mule. You put on the yoke. And, when you're surrounded by a bunch of mules, you can, accomplishments like, parenting accomplishments and success in business accomplishments can be appreciated by other mules. So then you have this way of, sharing your excellence with other men and building your confidence and so on and so forth. So I think that's what cures loneliness, is being with other men, having your men. We have a whole segment on that in the men's weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And then going back to just relaying on what Bruce said, the data is just showing that men have less friends these days.
Mm-hmm.
Women find each other, women create support groups, they do those things, but men are a little bit more lone wolves, if you will. And a lot of guys, they store up this anger, they store up these unhealthy emotions that they have no catharsis, and this manifests in bad ways. One of the things that really is plaguing our generation, which I do not condone at all, is the use of pornography. There is so much pornography that is ruining these ruining these men's minds, ruining I think it's like 1 in 4 men now have erectile dysfunction, and it's due to
40.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy stat.
And
that's why they're advertising Blue Chew everywhere.
Yeah, because they're watching this extreme sexual act being taken place, which has nothing to do with real love, real intimacy, real positive like sexual relations. Because a lot of this pornography is very damaging, and it's just very, I don't know, it's just very evil. It's very satanic. It's just something is not right in America. Like, my spirit doesn't feel well when I'm in the United States of America. Something is seriously wrong. Would
you agree that it's the men that have to change it? So
yes,
like one of the things about this whole fatflation and our last podcast and everything, it kind of can seem like we're pointing the finger at women. We're saying that everything is their fault, the simping and the fatflation and the hypergamy. But in reality, the way I see it, it's up to men. Men are the ones that have been put in charge of the success of community. Then they go home and they're also supposed to be leading financially. They're supposed to be leading physically, like protecting the house. They're supposed to be even leading emotionally, because like we're the rock. We have to be grounded. We can't be reactive. Because she's needs space to be emotional, which is true, and that's fine. So the onus is put on us, and we don't mind. We take on that burden because it's who we are. We actually like the hero's journey, like it's part of our identity to have that burden, to be that man. We don't even really see it as a burden. We see it as part of who we are. And then it gets kind of like a dual message is told to us, that it's toxic or it's controlling to be those things. And so now we don't know what to do, really, some men. And so they end up trying to do what makes her happy, what they think makes her happy, which changes, all the time. And then they raise children, they raise sons that see them trying to make a woman happy and making everything about her. And then daughters where they're princesses and they get everything and nothing they can do is wrong. They deserve the best. And they grow up telling each other, well, I deserve the best. You deserve the best. We all deserve the best. But the nature of the best is that not everybody can have the best. Right. And so
it becomes generational.
Yeah. And I could go on and on. But the reason why I think it's a good thing that men are ultimately the problem is because we love problems. If we can get this problem in front of enough men, then we can right this ship. We actually can correct this story, and it's up to us.
Yeah, 100%. I use the example of France being invaded by the Nazis in World War II. So when the Nazis invaded France in World War II, they killed all the French men, and then the French women, they just started marrying the Nazis. And then when the Americans stormed Normandy, drove the Nazis out of France, the French women went to the American men. You know what I mean? So women, they're not really, for the most part, women are more community oriented. They like to get a consensus of what's going on, and they typically follow the crowd. Men are the ones who will be the ones that stand up and say, hey, listen, this isn't right and we shouldn't be doing this. But if you look at what's happened in the United States of America, starting with the Old Spice commercial that turned the whole company around, you know, these advertising companies realized that if we target women, we can get them to buy our products more. Old Spice went from a dying company to making billions by switching their marketing to target women, because they found out that women do 80% of the household consumer shopping. And they turned this dying brand around to multi billions of dollars. But what ended up happening is then these commercials started making fun of men, and then mainstream media started doing it, and then mainstream music started doing it. Because like there's a lot of like when you live in Japan, when you live in Korea, when you live in these other countries, they don't have mainstream music of like men talking shit about women or women talking shit about men. But that's just like rampant and front and center here in the United States of America. I mean, I think our most popular artist is Taylor Swift, and I went to a Taylor Swift concert with my ex-girlfriend. It was a good time, but the lyrics are pretty toxic for these young girls to be listening to. And it's just, you know, they did analysis on the Disney Channel shows, and they were saying something along the lines of every show there's like at least like 30 or 40 insults to men, you know, micro programmed into this thing. So, I mean, in my opinion, when you look at the root of feminism, right, it was disguised as women's liberation, but the reality is it was all done for money. If you do your digging, every feminist cause leads back to manipulating women to get votes or to financially extort them. You know, women hold the majority of student loan debt in the United States of America. They also own the largest collection of useless degrees that pay them the least amount of money. And they lie to these girls and say, you can be a boss babe, you can be the CEO, and you can have an amazing husband, and you can be a wife and stuff. And the reality is, if you're a CEO, you're working at least 60 hours a week. So goodbye to having a good family life.
Yeah,
and then you got to send the kids to daycare, and then God knows who's watching these children and putting the beliefs into them when you're just at work all day. So, like I said, America, it all seems to me to be a sinister design, and it traces back to the food. It traces back to the family. I mean, plus size clothing alone in America is a $37 billion a year industry. You know, so when you look at all this, like my biggest thing is the whole saying to people like it's okay to be overweight and you could be healthy, and that's just not clinically true at all.
Yeah,
it is not. It is the number one killer of Americans.
The video I put together of Lindo Bacon.
Well, you want to talk about sinister and evil? I mean, does that look like a good woman to you?
Well, it's that. I mean, she looks freaky, but her message too is just like from somebody with that many credentials. Like, it's just a lie. You know, it's just not. It's not great. So that brings us back to the review of Fatflation real quick, which I wanted to do before we go into simping. Just to kind of sum it up, the idea is that because there are more overweight women in America, that has raised the value of regular weight women up to an astronomical level. And then when you couple that with all the attention that they can now get on apps and technology and all that stuff, that it has caused the ego, I guess, or something within the women to have an attitude. Now, an attitude that is different than women in the countries that you're, like in the Philippines or wherever you're traveling. And so that this isn't all women. This isn't an attack on all women. I think what you're saying is that these are the women that qualify for dating. And so if you're in that dating landscape, this is the type of attitude that you're running into, which if you're not, and I'm not, and Bruce isn't, and Brenda's not, like we're not in that dating. You're a dating coach. So we don't see it, but Fatflation is leading to the attitudes of these women that are considered dateable, I guess.
What percentage
so-
of men? What percentage of men are overweight and obese in America? Do we have that stat?
Technically, there are more obese men than there are women, and that's just due to the diets, but also, like, you're looking at the big fat truck driver who also has a lot of muscle, the garbage men who are out there picking up trash, they're a little fat, but they're also bulky. Men are just more predisposed to being larger in general, with larger muscle mass. And then as you put on muscle, it's impossible to put on muscle without putting on fat, right? As you go into a caloric surplus. So I just think that when you look at the data that I was presenting, it could be interpreted as an attack on women, but it is not. The data was, it took me 3 months to make sure that the math was sound on my thing. And the reason I did that is because the main problem is men simping, because it overinflates the value of what these women think they can get. And it's detrimental to the women because they don't have to go through the character development to learn how to be a good woman, how to be a good relationship partner. Because when you break up with a guy as a woman, you have 7 guys in line ready to pick up where the other guy left off in America. Compared to when you're a man, you get dumped. You got to go home, look in the mirror, and get like, okay, am I fat? Am I ugly? Is my hygiene bad? Am I a bad person? The typical man sits home and reflects, versus when, like I said, what's happening now with these chicks, they don't even have to do that because, like I said, they have a line of suitors ready to go. Like, if a woman is attractive on Instagram, she's getting guys hitting her up every day. Literally every day. I've talked to these girls. I've seen these girls. I've gone through their phones. I've asked to see these messages because I'm very thorough in what I do. And I mean, I just can't even believe that these guys would do such, in my opinion, such acts that just show that they have no self-respect.
We're going to go into simping. We're going to go into that in a minute. But one of the things you just said was like that. I think it's part of your presentation that we're going to play later, that women don't develop the relationship skills that they used to because they have these men in line. Once they lose one relationship, there's 7 men in line that they can just go jump into another one. They don't have to self-reflect on what happened or how they can be better or whatever. And it's interesting because we talk about relationship skills as well as being important in relationships and the different roles that men and women have in that, which we won't go into right now. But I thought that was interesting because, well, actually, no. Bruce, what do you think about that? That women develop relationship skills by being in these relationships and having them end, and then reflecting on who they are, who they were in that relationship, and how they can be better, and that helps develop the relationship skills. Or Brenda, like, what do you think about that? Like, either one of you guys.
The women that I hang out with and that I work with and that I coach and all of that are not the 20-somethings that Jonathan is specifically talking about. There's one thing that I would really like to bring in from what you guys were talking about earlier, if that's okay.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the girl code, you go girl, you can do it. They're pumping each other up, and it makes everybody. From a man's perspective, what I'm hearing is that makes them think that they're goddesses. But what's really happening is society, social media, the bullying, the mean girls at school. Taylor Swift sings about the mean girls at school as much as she talks about the guys she used to date. It's a real thing. So the girl pumping each other up is to counterbalance that I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with you. You're not thin enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not young enough. You're not fit enough. You're not enough. So that's a lot of what's happening with the girls cheering each other on, is because they've got to. Because when most women look in the mirror, they don't see what the rest of us see.
Well, it's a counterbalance, but it's possible that it could go too far. That counterbalance can go too far one way.
But only in the 20s. Once life happens, that gets beat out of us.
Yeah, that's what we call when they hit the wall. When
you're
they
no
hit
longer 25 and. It's funny, in my yoga class, I look at these 25-year-old girls. Not that they think they're all that great or anything, but I look at them, it's like, I used to look like that too, girl. It's like, I hope you look like me when you're my age.
So when we
and
talk-
what both
when we talk about men are overweight and women are overweight.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's kind of the same or even a little worse for men, but they're a little different body mass, whatever. But if they cancel each other out, then isn't it true that then a lot of these so-called overweight men still want that 30% of the women that are, so they're doing the pursuing, and then that's where the simping comes in, because they're actually denigrating themselves because they don't really have a chance anyway. So they're just hoping if they throw stuff at the equation, they're going to somehow get in the door, right? So the overweight problem is kind of an aside in a way, because they cancel each other out, like the two overweight classes. It's almost like the overweight should marry up with the overweight, and then the average body weight should match up, and it should all work.
I think it used to be more like that. I think men and women used to pair up like that more, but it doesn't seem like.
Sorry to interrupt you, Adam.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I think it becomes that because you are the average of who you hang out with, right? So you can start out with two fit people. One of them the CEO spends more time at the desk than he does at the gym, and he starts to gain weight. And then she starts to hang out on the couch with him and eat the same things and they just kind of roll into this situation where they are compatible. They're both overweight. They're both gym rats. They're both overweight, which is, that's not always, there's many exceptions. But I think we create our likenesses as well.
But
the other thing that occurs to me is that if like if a man is not holding firm in his masculinity, if he is compromising what we call terms in a relationship, because he just keeps throwing things, when he gets dumped because the woman doesn't respect him, or she just never was interested anyway, and she was just taking what he was giving her, he will be devastated. Because he has compromised himself. The degree to which a man is devastated when a relationship ends is the degree to which he has compromised his terms. Mm-hmm. And so then they're just licking their wounds, and and some men find it hard to recover, and especially if they continue that same behavior again and again and again. So I'm assuming when you're you're coaching these men, you're bringing that to them, right, and showing them the error of their way.
So that's what we say, holding frame. That's what I meant. Because, like, for example, I know some guys who used to go to the gym and be really, really jacked, right? And then they start dating a girl. And then she says, well, I don't like that you go to the gym so much. He's like, okay, I'm going to give up the gym for you. And then when these men just keep on conceding these demands, the women want you to say no. Because if a man doesn't have boundaries, a woman doesn't feel safe in the relationship. She wants a guy that she can't manipulate. She wants a guy that she can't control. Because if she looks at this guy, and if she looks at this guy and she's like, wait a minute, I can manipulate this guy. She's like, then that means other people can manipulate this guy, and I don't feel safe with this guy. And then earlier, Adam, you mentioned something which I wanted to add on to. You mentioned about how we're raising the children in the United States of America. And I've already covered this too. Simply put, in the United States of America, they are just simply trying to give as much accountability to men and take as much accountability away from women. Because when you have a woman, you tell her, oh, you can do whatever you want. That's a translation for these companies can come in and manipulate her and sell her crap, tell her to go get this liberal arts degree for $120,000. What are you going to do with a liberal arts degree?
Work at Walmart.
There's a saying, how does it go? It's that responsibility without accountability is tyranny.
Yes.
And responsibility without the other part of it is slavery. Like being responsible, but not being like having the control or something like that.
Yeah. Then that's when you become the mule.
Yeah.
And what's ironic is women love the stallion. They love this guy who's like this masculine guy. She can't really control him, but he's a good guy. He takes care of things. But when she starts to domesticate him and feminize him, the very thing that she was attracted to has now become this thing that she hates. but only the man can stop this, because women naturally do these things, right?
Yeah.
Because women are consistently testing a man to see, is this guy actually who he says he is? Is this guy truly strong? Is this guy truly who he's projecting himself to be? And when you don't hold frame, that's the fastest way to lose the relationship. A lot of guys sacrifice parts of themselves thinking, well, I want to save this relationship, and so I'm going to continue to concede to my wife's demands, my girlfriend's demands, but they are just expediting the end of the relationship, because if she's not going to respect you.
And it's not
Yeah,
conscious,
exactly.
it's instinctual, and
Yes.
there's a difference between conceding to her demands and considering her desires. A man
Yes.
that goes in and just takes over and willy-nilly does whatever the hell he wants to do, that's not going to work either. But when a good, strong, masculine man comes in and says, okay, this is our home, this is our foundation, this is what we're creating together, both of us with our input. And then she says, I don't want you to go to your Tuesday night meeting with the man. I want you to stay home with me and the kids. That's not healthy for either one of them, because he needs his man and she needs him to go be with his men.
But it's what she thinks she wants, but it's not what she needs. She
Well,
needs
and
him to
I
go.
think sometimes it's testing too. It's like she wants to women want control because we don't have very much, we think, but we do. We have all the control. We just need to know how to
use it.
how to be ourselves and to be out in the world creating the relationship where our man wants to be our hero by showing up in a way that inspires that masculine energy, not which kills that masculine energy.
I like
Yeah.
the metaphor we came up with in the weekend, the river and the rock. The river being the feminine power, and the rock in the middle of the river just standing solid. And she goes crashing into it. She's looking for cracks and fissures and all sorts of things. She's testing. And when she discovers that the rock is not going to move, is not going to yield, it's not doing anything, it's just not going to move, she starts to flow around it, and she starts to trust it. And then she starts to manage the relationship instead of the man. That's the key in a long-term committed relationship.
And that's an interesting distinction, managing the relationship, not the man. And that's tricky. That's something you don't want to do on your own. That's why we have coaches, right, Jonathan?
Yeah. One of the biggest things I harp on the men is, I said, if you want to have a healthy long-term relationship with a woman, you have to learn leadership skills or you're going to fail. You have to learn leadership skills, and leadership sometimes means saying no when everybody's groaning and saying, why aren't you saying no? You say no is no, and this is where we're going, and that's it. Because it's for the better of the family, it's for the better of the group. And going back to the media, right? I believe the hierarchy should be, the man is the top, he's the head of the household, the woman loves him, serves him, and follows him, the man takes care of her, and then she imparts the wisdom from him and her into the children. But if you look at the modern media nowadays, they have perverted that and they've inverted that. If you look at The Simpsons, who's the smartest one? It's Lisa and the kids. And then there's Marge, and then there's Homer, the big bumbling stupid fool. And then if you look at Family Guy, exactly the same thing. There's Stewie,
The dog.
there's the children, the dog. The dog is the smartest one, right? And then there's Lois, and then there's Peter Griffin, the fat idiot who's always causes some kind of trouble. Compared to like the 90s, if you watch Step by Step, Family Matters, we had some healthy, positive masculinity roles being showed to the American public. And if you look at the situation back then, the health of society was far better. So like I said, going back to my personal analysis of this, because I'm a very data-driven guy, and if you just look at all this data and what's happening, this does just seem to be by design, in my opinion.
Well, I agree. Feminism, we did a whole episode on that 2 episodes ago called The Great Feminization, which I think is contributed to fatflation. I think that feminization of America contributed directly to the fatflation, which also is tied to the simping, which we're going to get into right now. What is simping? We've had this question asked, so I'm going to play a little video that I put together that maybe will highlight what simping is. So Let's watch this real quick.
He is simping for you.
So we're asking girls, what is the simplest thing a guy has ever done?
He was friends with my college roommate, so when I wasn't in the room, he would write on my mirror like compliments towards me, and then he would buy me things without telling me and just leave them in my front door and run away.
How did that strategy work out for him?
Not well.
Oh, I've gotten 4K from somebody and I never even had sex with him.
Why did they send you 4K?
He just wanted to take pictures of me.
Send me $5,000.
Send you $500? 1,000?
Yeah.
5,000? Just for nothing?
Yeah.
A guy brought me a boob job once, and I never did anything but went to the
No
Wynn.
strings attached?
I know her.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, she's my friend.
Wow. We can tell us if her story is true. I don't know what it is about StreamYards, but sometimes these videos, they just get caught up. I don't know why. I didn't pause it. But this is from YouTube. Some of the other ones are from TikTok, man. TikTok is a wild place, bro.
Yeah.
Wild.
TikTok is
No, I showed up at the Wynn it was the Wynn opening. Steve Wynn. We went and literally got to meet Steve Wynn and had a fancy meal, and that was it.
I think that's fine. So if a guy pays for my tab,
I think I'm getting your attention. I feel like I touched a vampire touching Chloe.
can I help you?
Having Sims is not for the weak. I will post something on here and they will take everything
This TikTok.
seriously. I mean everything. There's a trend right now where all the girls are into getting bobs and like moving them all cutely. And I said that was bob propaganda. And my simp messaged me and said, I saw what you posted about bob propaganda, so I'm gonna block every girl with a bob. Any girl I've been talking to with a bob, I am blocking them.
I get those goosebumps.
I mean, there's just thousands of videos. How to make a guy simp.
I'm gonna show you
I can do whatever you want.
I just hope you pick up. Mine is the heart in the
I like my bitch Red Bull.
On your mind, come back every time, baby.
The fundamental ingredient of a simp is that they empower women financially who have no love and respect for them. Now, why they do that? They think that the only way to get a woman's attention and the only way to get her to submit and respect you in any way, shape, or form is if you buy that submission or if you buy that love, or if you
Come behind me up.
Men telling women how to get simping
Yeah.
girls.
Space was just a word made up.
And they play the same music, they make the same videos. It's like a hive mind.
Yeah.
Stop. You are simping wrong.
All right.
Why would women accept these unsolicited gifts? Like, why would they accept them from men?
I mean, you wouldn't take $5,000 if a girl knew. Yeah, exactly. Like if you wouldn't take $5,000 if some girl was like, "Hey, Bruce, I like you. Here's $5,000."
You don't have to do anything for it here. Just think nice thoughts of me. Okay, I can do that.
I feel like a
Yeah.
prostitute.
I didn't know this was a thing. Wow.
Let's
And
try it
it's-
out.
it's
Somebody give Bruce
extremely rampant.
$5,000. Let's see if he takes it.
but
Test
it's
me.
it's super rampant right now, and a lot of those videos where the girls receiving the 5,000 to several thousand, that's in Brickell, Miami. That's exactly where that's filmed. I know that Italian restaurant there. I was just in Miami, on the 15th, giving the Fresh and Fit presentation. But yeah, this is, and the reason I think simping is being pushed is, again, you're giving money to women, and women love to spend money. Women spend more money than men. You know what I mean? Women love shopping. Women love buying. They go into a shopping frenzy when they go out there, right? Especially if you give them your credit card. And so the powers that be know this, and that's why they keep targeting women. Because another thing is this. If you look at what's happening with the testosterone levels with men in the United States of America, they're dropping. And if you look at all the consumer goods that men are using, lotions, colognes, certain deodorants, all of this stuff is poisoning your system and lowering your testosterone levels. Because like you guys, Bruce and Adam, you guys have higher testosterone than some of these guys in their 20s. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, that's the backbone of masculine health is testosterone.
Right.
You know, so like I said, in my opinion, it does seem like it's all by design. And the simping stuff, again, simping damages the woman the most because it puts her in this like trust fund baby mindset where you just have everything handed to you and everything's free until your looks start to fade. And then now you have all this experience, you know, you slept with a bunch of guys, you took all this money, and now a regular guy who makes $70,000 a year is like, hey, I just like first date, I just like to get to know you over a coffee. To like, coffee, excuse me, I get taken steak dinners first date and flown on helicopters. You know what I mean? So why should I go have a coffee with you? And they're insulted by it. But the reality is a coffee date is a good date for men and women because it's low cost in regards to time. And you can meet someone, and then if you don't like them, you could slam your coffee, be like, hey, listen, gotta go. Thanks so much. Never talk to you again, right? Versus if you have dinner with somebody, you know, have you ever had dinner on a date with somebody and like when the appetizers hit and you're like, I do not want to be here. And now you still have to wait for the main course and all that. And it's just not a financially sound strategy for men to do that. And it's reflecting once again in the sexlessness data and the loneliness data. And a very special thing is going to happen to American women. By 2030, 50% of all American women will be single and childless. That's never happened in our nation's history. You know, if women don't have kids, we die.
Yep, we've talked about all those numbers. It's so important. we did a segment on sex robots too. Bruce and I were talking, and he's like, "That's going to be the answer."
You guys made a reference. Did you make a reference to that, Jonathan, on one of the shows? It was very subtle. It was like something about, you said something under your breath, almost like sex robots, and then you didn't go there. But
yeah,
and
well,
it's like,
I've talked that.
I was expanding on that, like, you know, just talking about it, like, so, you know, assuming, you know, that they get so good that it's like a living character of a woman. Like, I mean, you can barely tell the difference unless you know, so you could program it too, AI, right? So you could program it to test you. You could program it to push you to success. You could, and then I was thinking,
nag you.
You could get little kids that come into the house, and you could like learn how to discipline them. You can live this whole fantasy life with robots, like, and women could do it too with men. Like,
yeah, it's happening. I mean, there are women now that are marrying their AI boyfriends that are digital representations on their phone. You know, and they have AI girlfriend built into Grok, the AI that is run by Elon Musk and his team. And if you look at, you know, the way things are going, like I said, I personally believe the agenda is that they do not want families because families are the strongest thing that stand up against tyrannical governments. And I think that they're trying to destroy the family unit, and it's working, you know. But like if you have super Grok, or if you just have any Grok, you know, if you have any Grok subscription, you can have an AI companion. Like this is one of the AI girlfriends right here. Her name is Annie. This is available on Grok to anybody. She talks to you. She does whatever she wants. And these things are extremely popular. And they have Annie, and then they have Valentine for the women. And it's this, you know, this guy in a suit who's looking like dark and suave. And these things will eventually be inside robots. But what I believe is going to also happen is with the kind of proliferation of GLPs and weight loss drugs that now numb your ability to feel hungry, I truly believe they're going to come out with a drug that will numb your sexual desires within the next 3 to 5 years. And
why would anybody want that?
Well, I mean, I just think they're going to push it on us. Like, does anybody really want to go to Target and see a fat mannequin? But there they are.
Yeah.
You know, this is the AI boyfriend for the girls. This is on Grok. You can talk to this guy, and it is becoming rampantly, you know, in our society. So the thing that we need to get back to is if we continue to demoralize and emasculate men, we will no longer have a country. because women are not going to defend this country. Women are not going to pick up arms and go to the military and fight. They can't. They're not stronger than us. They're not faster than us. It's completely unfair. So, like I said, when I look at everything, when you talk about the food supply poisoning you, and then you talk about the number of women on SSRIs and antidepressants, like 1 in 5 women are documented on some kind of drug. They're pushing birth control on women, which really messes them up as well.
Yeah.
So
the SSRI thing is crazy, man. Like it's another thing about feminism that I'll try not to go off on feminism too much, but it's like women got everything they wanted. Like everything was achieved in feminism, and they're supposed to be happier, but they're all on fucking drugs now. Like, what happened? Why aren't they happy? Why did that's a whole.
If you look at if you look at the go ahead.
Kyle put a comment in there. There's a food already that lowers a woman's sex drive. Wedding cake.
Everyone's a comedian. That's my husband.
That's Brenda's husband.
Going back to so if you chart the beginning of the women's liberation movement, which is what they marketed this as if women were enslaved to men in the past. If you look at how the women's freedom and liberation line goes up, it is a direct inverse correlation with the happiness of American women. American women are some of the most unhappy women on the planet. Female unhappiness has been consistently rising since the 1970s. There's never been a year where it peaked back up,
Well, to tie that back in with simping, which I do want to, I have a video. I'm going to play some of your presentation. I want to go through some of it. But Bruce and I were having a conversation earlier about how the simping is not, the women don't like it. It's not even, it doesn't turn them on. And it definitely, what I think it says to them is that a man is shallow, that his intentions behind why he's doing what he's doing is to gain access to her sexually, or to objectify her as a beauty object, instead of actually getting to know her and showing that he has his own standards, that when they're interacting, he has value, and that he's actually vetting her, not just gushing over her in a way that is ingenuine, right? Just to get something he wants. And then she's actually kind of like offended by it and turned off by it. But sometimes if there's free stuff too that comes along with it, then they'll entertain it for long enough to get some free stuff.
But as Jonathan also pointed out, that it doesn't benefit them in the long run. As a matter of fact, it's extremely detrimental to them.
Yeah.
Because they start to have this unrealistic expectation. And because ultimately isn't every woman ultimately looking for a long-term committed relationship, generally speaking. And so that just destroys their chances in a lot of ways if they fall into this mindset.
Right. And go ahead, Brenda.
I was just going to say, in humanity, we know when we haven't earned something. And so that we devalue what we haven't earned. It's just like giving away your work for free. You've got to charge appropriately for the work that you put out into the world so that it's valued. If I offer a coaching package for $500, it's going to be valued very differently than a package that I put out there for $5,000. And it could be the exact same package. It's just a matter of how much energy are you going to put into this. It's the same with everything else. A young woman who's getting something for nothing. And like you said earlier, she hasn't developed a personality. So then she becomes a married woman with a man that's given her the world, and she's just taking. She never learned that she has to give back. And so then they have that problem to deal with. It's just a chain of ugly events. We've got to start at the beginning. And I think a lot of the problem is women don't know how to be women anymore. Men don't know how to be men anymore. And a lot of that's because we have an online culture.
It's the media.
I compare my morning breath and ugly hair with the beautiful girl on the screen that doesn't even look like that. And I think we all do that to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think in my development as a man, the most valuable times that I have ever had in life is going through extreme heartbreak after a relationship, because I'm the kind of person that I always blame myself first before I start looking outwards, before I try to point the finger at other people. In Brazil, they say when you point a finger at somebody, you have three fingers pointing back at yourself, right? And I like that saying because it's so true. And then you have to go into a relatively dark place to confront the uncomfortable realities about yourself to fix them in order to level up. Like Adam was talking about earlier, the hero's journey, right? You have to go on this endless hero's journey as a human to continuously level up as you grow and as you age in order to become a more sophisticated individual. But the problem that women, and it's not their fault, it's again, if you really listen to the presentation, at the end of the presentation was designed to show men that you simping is a zero-sum game because you're not going to win. And this simping is the number one thing that the whole dating market is being ruined by. And like I said, the data clearly shows it. And this trend is showing no sign of reversal. It's showing to increase every single year. And the last time a country went through this type of sexlessness epidemic was the Weimar Republic. And then those young men were recruited by the Nazi Party. And we all know what happened then. So this is a big problem. And then just to add to that one final point, the FBI is now monitoring a lot of these incel groups and showing up at the front doors because there's a lot of guys talking about we need to have an incel revolution. This is getting unfair. This is an unbalanced society. And I feel bad for these guys because let's be honest, as men, the majority of everything we do is to get sex. You know, when we're out there single, why do you work hard? I want a girlfriend so I can have money, so I can take her out. Why do you go to the gym? Sure, I want to be healthy, but girls like guys with muscles. You know, why do you want the fast sports cars? Is it to drive 150 miles an hour down the road? Sometimes, but more so to have a beautiful woman in the passenger seat, right? You don't want to have your big fat friend in the Ferrari next to you. You want to have some skinny, 110-pound, beautiful blonde girl, right? And that's everything that men do. But when you have no reward in a society that's telling men you're terrible, you're toxically masculine, the fact that you were born a man is there's something wrong with you. This is sinister. You should not be telling this to little boys in the schools. And how this is being indoctrinated is the females make up the majority of all education in teachers in the United States of America. And so you're having these young girls who were just the sorority house doing cocaine and fucking being wild. Now you have them with this fresh feminist indoctrination coming from college, telling these young boys that you need to sit down, you need to stop, you're being a bad boy. You know, the schooling process in itself in America is very feminized, right? To sit down and they drug up the little boys and say, you have ADHD. It's like, no, that is a young boy who's filled with energy. And they beat this life out of them at a young age, and they're medicating the kids now. And it's like, again, it's just, this is not okay. And I can't believe no one's saying anything about this.
You cover so many topics when you start getting going. I want to stop and dive into so many of those. The teacher one is really interesting, actually. And I don't think, obviously I know what you're saying with the sorority girls doing cocaine and then becoming teachers. There are also some really good teachers that don't have that past, right? But the fact that they're women, that their lens is a little bit different when they look at how a student should be in a classroom. It's just through a female lens. It's not bad. It's just a different type of a lens. Okay.
Yeah. Can I add to that what you were just saying about the female lens? Because a woman can't teach a man how to be a man and how to boss up and how to level up. A woman can't do that to a man. Just like I can't relate to a woman who's having PMS cramps or going through her third trimester and the baby's kicking and she's like, what do I do? My feet are swollen. I fucking don't know. I'm sorry. We have specific roles that we are experts in as men and women. And again, there's a perversion of our culture where they're trying to blend these roles. And if you just look at America, I don't think anybody is being honest and say America 30 years ago was worse than where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad because I was going to write a book, The Third Trimester and What to Expect.
From a man's point of view.
Yeah, from a man's life.
You know, little boys that are being raised by single moms and grandmas are very different than little boys that are told to go climb a tree and don't get hurt too bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see it. You can see it when mom's around and when mom's not around. You can see it when there's a man in the room and there's not a man in the room. You can just see the same kid act completely differently.
Oh yeah. Well, the stats on single mothers raising children versus single fathers raising children is drastically different as far as outcomes go, and I think it's just because I like what MLD was saying. Women cannot raise boys into men. They don't know how to, and they shouldn't know. They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't know how to. By the way, Bruce, the first chapter of your book would be called "Calm Down," right? That would be.
Yeah, it always works.
I love your energy.
Calm down. Yeah. All right.
No,
So,
that always works. I always tell a woman to calm down.
always. All right. I want to pick up where we left off on the presentation from last podcast. And then this is, you said in your presentation, this is currently on the Dove website.
Yes. This is currently, you can go to Dove right now and click on their, campaigns that they're trying to do or whatever. And, this is not an attractive woman. I don't care what anybody says. This is not a healthy woman. This is a woman that is heading towards diabetes, that is heading towards an early grave. Heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans, both men and women. You know what the #1 thing that kills pets in America? It's obesity. Like, we're so fat, we're killing our pets with our fatness as well.
Lindo would disagree with you. She would say that this is you can be healthy at any size.
Yeah. I remember hearing if your dog is fat, you need to go for a walk.
Dog with you.
Yeah.
All right, here's another slide. And so this was interesting. It was like we were talking about how it's fashionable to be fat, and it's like, well, is it though? As soon as there's a shot you can take, everybody lines up for it.
Right.
And it just shows that, they're just susceptible to marketing. Because if they truly believed in being fat is okay, then why are 19 million women from day one looking at this drug that has a side effect of blindness? And they're thinking, should I lose my sight or lose 40 pounds? Fuck it, I'm going to lose 40 pounds, and they just stab it right up.
Yeah, but is the message that being fat is okay, or is the message that you're okay even if you're fat?
I think the message is, I think what you are saying is the good intention behind the message, but the reality is they're saying just be fat. Because if you look at it too, right, a woman typically only needs, a woman who's, let's say, 5'4", 120 pounds, 130 pounds, something like that. She only needs 1,500 calories a day, right? But if you tell a woman, hey, doesn't matter your size, now she's out here buying more. Now she's there consuming more. I mean, like some of these drinks at Starbucks, one drink has 1,000 calories in it.
Or more, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's all engineered to get them to consume. It's all about consumerism. When you peel back the layers and analyze truly what is happening, it is just about consume. Isn't
it unacceptable in society to murder people, to be a criminal, to steal, to be a drug addict? Don't we shame these types of behaviors? And there used to be controls in society around healthy weight as well. And yeah, shame is bad, right? We don't want to shame people. We don't want to make people feel bad. But there was something about society for a long time that kept people at a healthier weight. What changed?
Well, I would say it's become fashionable to be overweight.
Well, and
that's one of the things. That's one of the things that drives women's behavior is fashion. So once
Yeah.
it became fashionable, well, then the lid is off.
I really don't think it became fashionable because, I mean, look, where if that was true, Bruce, where
Yeah.
are all the body positivity male models?
No, I meant for women.
Well, I know, but the body positivity movement was supposed to be a gender-free movement, right?
Oh, it
But
didn't land
they
with men.
were
It didn't land with men, though, I don't think.
But men are also overweight too, right? By even larger numbers.
Well, that goes back to Jonathan's consume. That's the message that's being sent. Everyone, they want everyone to consume,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
All I'm saying is that it's that women themselves, like think about it. Back when I was a young man, we didn't have the internet, so what did we have? Catalogs and magazines and things like that. That's how we looked at women, and they were all skinny women, you know, and it was fashionable to be skinny. I would say those models were too skinny because they're in front of the camera, but whatever. But you know, women, it was fashionable to be thin, and that was that onus, that social onus that, you know, you don't want to be overweight. That's a bad thing. And I'm just saying that it became fashionable to be overweight. It's acceptable. It's an okay thing.
If you
and
think
women
about
love fashion. Think about this. Think about it. Many years ago, 60 years ago, a woman would not even date a man who had a tattoo because he was a criminal. He was a this, he was a that. There was something wrong with a man with a tattoo. Now, can you find me a woman that doesn't have a tattoo? I mean, because it became fashionable.
Yeah, and then it's funny that you mentioned that, Bruce. Now in America, more women have tattoos than men.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, and if you look at the psychology behind it, the people who have excessive amount of tattoos, these people are also prone to self-harm and self-mutilation. And when people do these kind of self-harm and self-mutilation thing, it's typically because they're suffering mentally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think it's a sign of an unhealthy woman, because it's not very feminine to go get a bunch of tattoos and tattoo your neck and tattoo your chest and tattoo your breast. You know, it's just not feminine. And guys don't, if you have to choose between A and B, most guys are going to choose a tattoo-less woman. And like in places like Japan, China, and Korea, if you have a tattoo, they just assume you're either in the mafia or being sex traded by the mafia. And there's certain gyms in Japan that if you have a tattoo, man or woman, you're not allowed to go in there.
Well, I do think there's a link between tattoos and mental illness with women, but we have to say
Men too. It's universal.
Yeah, but there are also healthy people mentally that have tattoos too.
I think the key word is excessive.
Yeah.
Yes, excessive is absolutely.
Bruce, I disagree with you on the fashion. I every time you've said it, I've tried to think about it, that it's women thought it was fashionable to gain weight. And I can't wrap my head around it. But then I was thinking about it though, in ancient Greece, right? All these paintings and statues, the women were actually more voluptuous, right? Because it was like it was a sign of wealth that you actually could afford enough food to have extra calories, right?
And you had somebody to clean your house and to wait on you hand and foot. You didn't have to go out and work in the field. And
so it was fashionable back then. Maybe I don't know. Maybe.
Well, one of the things, because Bruce was talking about earlier, right, and I covered in the presentation, the hip to waist ratio is one of the most consistent things that across all cultures, all timelines, and 30 years of peer-reviewed studies have shown that men prefer the hourglass shape, right? And a nice hourglass, not a big one, you know, not like that. And again, even blind men who have never seen in their life, they have felt women, they have felt mannequins, and they said the ones with the 0.7 hip to waist ratio was the most attractive. So this is wired into us to seek a healthy mate, because as humans, what we need to do is we need to find somebody who has a good genetic match for us, who is healthy, so we can produce even healthier offspring, because nobody wants unhealthy offspring. And that's why it's built into us genetically. And if you want to talk about, I mean, the crazy thing about the fat movement is like, not eating is free. Like, you really don't need that many calories. You really don't. Like the 3 days a meal thing 3 meals a day was pushed by the food companies.
To make money.
You know, you really don't need to be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And Carol in the chat, she was saying, look at the cereal aisle. We feed our children sugar-coated sugar in milk that has sugar as well. Right. And this is like a healthy, balanced diet. No, it's not. Your kids are better off eating eggs and bacon every day than if you're going to eat cereal.
Sorry. The term that breakfast is the most important meal of the day was, I think, coined by breakfast food company.
I think it was General Mills. I think it was General Mills. Yes.
Of orange juice.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Sugar.
Yeah.
All right, I want to move on to the next slide just so we can get through this this whole presentation because there's some good stuff in here. All right, let's see what do we got here. Oh yeah, so this was we already talked about the women got in line to take the shot.
Yeah, more women are on peptides than men. And like even the people following this lifestyle, Lizzo was, you know, pushed. She's this African-American performer. She was supposed to be this fat acceptance lady, but the GLPs came out and she tried it and she used it. She says she dieted down, but I think she got a lot of backlash from her fat following. Like, you're betraying us, you're betraying the movement, but she still went to lose the weight. Like, I don't care what anybody says. No woman in her right mind wants to be fat. No woman wants to be fat at any age.
Nobody does.
Yeah. No, nobody does. Yeah. And this is just in the context of women and dating and stuff too. Because like I said, there are more obese men, and men have their own slew of problems that they have to deal with. But the goal of my presentation was to show the guys the mathematical odds you have in the United States of America are slim to none. Best case scenario, 4-to-1. Worst case scenario, 20-to-1. Either way, those odds are terrible. And so simping only drains your bank account, leaves you feeling emotionally broken, leaves you feeling used. And what do you get at the end of the day? A credit card bill and a lonely home.
And she doesn't like it either. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's gone.
Yep. Big Pharma's getting paid.
Again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want...
If you go back to the chart, I'll show you something on the chart, you know, because the slide before this one. Yeah, right there. So if you look at this chart right here, it just documents how obesity continued to rise. And that first dotted line there, that's when the Dove Real Beauty campaign started in 2004. And then Lindo Bacon came in, healthy at every size, at 2009. You see, it didn't grow. It only grew in that 5-year period, about 1%. But then 2010 hit. And now you have the proliferation of smartphones.
Yeah.
And now you have social media. And now you have, because back in the day, right, like Bruce is saying, if you wanted to advertise something, you put it in a catalog, or you got 30 seconds on TV at 4 o'clock and that was it. Social media runs 24 hours, 365. It doesn't turn off. So you have this indoctrination machine lying to these young girls. And if you use, I don't think anybody here uses Snapchat, right? You guys know what Snapchat is?
I know it isn't the point of Snapchat that the message disappears.
Yeah, if a girl has Snapchat, she's probably doing some devious things. But Snapchat itself also used to promote body positivity everywhere. And now when you log into Snapchat, it's GLP drugs everywhere. It's and there's no purity in their message. You know what I mean? There's no purity, because if fat was being okay, then why are we promoting to not be fat now? And if you just trace it all back, it's all about money. That's all it's all about.
So that blue line is that's Ozempic.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
exactly.
That's the first time that obesity started to come down from 42 to 40. Interesting. See if I can advance this thing. There we go.
Yeah.
So this is just about this is the 20-to-1 or 4-to-1, depending if you add in actual like attractiveness, promiscuousness, loyalty, right? That's what.
No, that's
the numbers.
No, that's not this. No, this is
right. This is before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 5.6 million. The 5.6 million here represents also women who categorize as overweight. This is women who are 25 BMI, 26 BMI, up to 26.9. And so that's not even because I added that to give some, to pad my numbers a little bit to give some kind of hope. But the reality is, if you have overweight women, not every overweight woman is going to be attractive. It's a very small percentage of that category of women that will be attractive. But again, best case scenario, that's what you're looking at.
Okay, but now also among these 20 million men, how many of them actually qualify in the minds of these women?
Not much.
It's a very small number, isn't it?
Right.
So there's like, this is why you're saying there's not a lot of sex going on.
Yeah, but there are things that make men more attractive to women besides their appearance too. A man can look like a total toad and have many other qualities, whether they're material or personality or whatever. It's very different. A woman can be Margaret Thatcher running Europe, and she's not considered pursuable. Not that she cares, but that's a fact. She's one of the most powerful. At her time, she was one of the most powerful women in the world, and she would not have been considered pursuable. But a man in that same position would be a hell of a catch.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right, but online, these 20 million men that, like, how would you online? How would you know that they have these other qualities? Isn't online dating all just based on looks, really?
Yeah, that's another part of the problem. I mean, online dating is, online dating usage is going up, but marriage is going down, sexlessness is going down. And what's happening is, I actually didn't include like 35 slides to my presentation because it was too long. I'll probably do a full version on my channel. I'll send it to you, Adam.
Yeah.
But like what Brenda said is true. What a man finds attractive in a woman is not what a woman finds attractive in a man, right? And Brenda, you probably have some girlfriends that were like in love with some ugly guy, and you're like, why are you obsessing over this guy? Because
and it's interesting because I'm also a coach, Jonathan, and I coach women who are out there looking for their person, and they're asking questions like, how do I meet good quality men without going online? Because men, I don't know if it's simp culture or it's just the toxic masculinity nonsense, but men aren't approaching women out in the wild. And there are a lot of women, it's like, I don't want to go online. It's artificial, it's scary, it's service level. The a 55-year-old woman isn't going to be in that 25-year-old goddess category, and it's just not fun for many women. I found it quite fun myself, but
no, you're right, because I have a lot of female clients too, and the problem with women is they have too many options and they just don't know how to discern who's the right one, versus men have virtually no options.
I don't know about that. I mean, the women that I'm talking to, they would have many options, except they don't know how to play the game. They don't know
I think you're talking to a different demographic of women.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, I have a friend, she's very attractive. She takes care of herself. She's 51. She's a widow, and she has 1,000 matches on Bumble. And she tells me, she's like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know. She's overwhelmed. And she's a very intimidating woman too. She's a multimillionaire. She's beautiful. She takes care of herself. She's very skinny. She's a stunning woman, and she intimidates a lot of guys too. And the problem that I see with, a lot of my female American friends is, they just don't know how to find a quality man. They just can't. They have all the wrong options coming at them, and they just kind of put up this wall as a defense mechanism, and time eventually passes them by. And again, like I said, the data just shows the single rate for women and men is going up.
Send her to our women's weekend in November.
Yeah,
we'll show her how to select a man.
I'm curious, MLD. I'm curious because one of the things we hear about with hypergamy is that a woman who's a multimillionaire and all those attributes, gorgeous and everything, that she would not consider a man unless he was also a multimillionaire. Is that true? In this,
In her case, no, but she says like he at least needs to make 100,000 a year. I'm like, okay, well, you just reduced the pool to like, and no, and I tell her too. I said, you know, she's gorgeous. I said, but sweetie, like, you're 51. Like, top 51-year-old men, they're not typically looking for 51-year-old women. Some are, right? But typically men like younger women. That's just been since the dawn of time, and so. It's a predicament that a lot of these women put themselves into because they buy the lie of you got to be a boss babe. You're a strong, independent woman. You don't need a man. You need to make your own money. And a lot of women bought into this. My very own sister bought into the fat stuff and the boss babe stuff. She's 38. She can't find anybody and she's miserable. She said she's tired. She's like, I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to be strong anymore. She's like, I want to find a good man, but she doesn't want to address her problems. And I said, well, I said, Brittany, you're 38 and you're obese. Like, what do you expect?
It's hard truth to hear.
Yeah.
We have to make ourselves marketable. You know, when you're looking for your love partner, the first thing you have to do is look in the mirror and say, am I the person that I want? Am I what they're looking for? And if you're not, you have to either decide to do your own personal work or change who you're looking for, because if that's a mismatch, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the problem with that is, you know, a lot of these single women have also single women friends. And, you know, one thing we see in the manosphere is the number one thing that keeps single women single is other single women, you know, because they poison the well and they, you know, like if a guy gets a beautiful girlfriend, a lot of his guy friends will be happy for him, right? If a lot of females that are single and they're used to being single together, if one of their friends go out and get a happy, healthy relationship, a lot of her female friends will become jealous. And, you know, and then sometimes they sabotage, you know, the relationship. I've seen it happen, you know, time and time again. So it's a big problem we have. And the reason I put out this presentation again was just, you know, this is a very masculine presentation because it's just very mathematical. This is just math. Everything has been math and numbers and data, census data, Gallup polls, GSS surveys. And it was just to show the guys that simping is not going to be the answer. You have to understand game. And game is just simply understanding female psychology, genuinely understanding, does this woman really like me for me? Or is it she like me because I give her all this money? Or is it because I take her on these trips? Is it because I do all these things for her, right? And that's the biggest problem that men are dealing with. We teach the men to look for what I call genuine desire. Because if a woman really likes you, she will meet you for a coffee date. If she really likes you, she'll drive an hour and a half to go meet you. But if she doesn't like you, you could take her to a steak dinner, drop all this money. She will go have the dinner, and then she'll call a guy like me after and be like, hey, I just had dinner. What are you up to? You know, I used to eat the leftovers.
It's a controversial take. All right, fatflation defined. We've talked about that. We've talked about this.
Right.
We've talked about all this.
Well, and BMI is not a very reliable indicator, just simply because it's all about weight and measurements. You know, muscle weighs so much more than fat, takes up a lot less space. So, you know, we have to keep in mind that this is just a standardized test, and it's not the gospel.
But it is more true than it is wrong. The exceptions to that are the exceptions, statistical outliers. Right. But the general data of BMI is a very reliable source of medical data, because it doesn't matter. Like, okay, if we were going to categorize a woman who was overweight based on BMI, she would have to have a lot of muscle mass. And it is very hard for women to make muscle mass unless she's taking a lot of exogenous testosterone. Women make a fraction of the testosterone that men have. And that's why you see these competitive bodybuilder women, they're all on drugs. They all take Anavar, they all take Decbal, they take all these steroids. I used to work in a gym, and I would see it firsthand. And and these chicks go crazy when they take these steroids too. And again, that is just a because steroids make anybody crazy, right?
Right.
But when you're looking at the exceptions to the BMI, they are a fraction of the general reality. You know what I mean? So I can't predict. I cannot create a perfect model, but I did. So I did try to just show exactly a clear picture of the landscape using the data available to us.
Yeah, forgive me. I come from a gym culture, so that's something that I am sensitive to. So
yeah,
that's right. Based on what we're talking about, those are outliers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, Jonathan, you were talking about eating leftovers, like dinner, and then, hey, what are you doing now? I remember it reminded me of when I first met my wife. I was at a baseball game watching, and she was there watching as well, and sitting beside her, and the manager of the team came by and he saw her, single woman, sitting there. He offered to buy her a cooler, a beverage out of the beer cooler, bought her one, right? And then comes by again, offers her another one. She said no. And this time I'd already struck up a conversation with her. I said, listen, next time he asks you to buy you a beverage, just accept it, give it to me. and so that's what she did. And then he comes by again and he sees, fuck, he's drinking the beverage I bought for her, right?
Yeah, so and that's literally what I showed in the chart. I showed the bottom 80%, they give their money to the women, and the women take that money to level themselves up or to give it to the man that they truly want. And I've seen this firsthand. I've seen it with my clients, and it's again, it's a you look like a fool as the guy. You look like a dumbass. You're giving this woman all the money, and then she's giving it to another man. Like the one strategy that you thought was going to get you the woman is pushing her into the arms of another man.
Yeah.
So it just makes no sense.
Now that you've told that story, Bruce, you can never say you don't know what simping is. You were part of a major simping event. You were the recipient.
That was 40 years ago.
That's okay. Now you know, and it's been around forever. It's timeless. Okay, I think this is where you talk about simping. This is where you go into the real problem is men simping. Let's take a listen.
The problem is how men are trying to tackle this problem. This is where the problem of the men are not going the right way to solve it. Okay? Because of the low supply of attractive women, men are now trying to compete by raising the price they pay for women. This is what Fresh was alluding to, right? Coffee dates are now frowned upon by women because they're getting spoiled by men overpaying just to get a shot at a date at her, aka simping. Simping is the real root cause of all this because men are continuously paying the high price. The only reason some woman will ask you for $200, $300, $500 to have sex with her is because she probably had 4 guys already that did that.
Okay, now that sounds like straight prostitution right there.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
I mean, it is like I'm pretty sure none of you guys use sugar baby websites, but as a dating coach, I investigate all these things. And again, on Snapchat, they're advertising to women like, hey, just be a sugar baby, join Seeking Arrangements. And they are now glorifying young women to be prostitutes. And this is socially acceptable.
This is a website called Sugar Babies that women can go on and find sugar daddies.
It's called Seeking Arrangement. It's seeking.com. And this is just the largest one. But I mean, they have sugarbaby.jp for Japan. This stuff is being pushed everywhere on these young ladies. And the thing is, when a woman does have that kind of transactional sex with a man, it damages her soul. It damages her because she's submitting herself to a sexual experience that she doesn't like and she's not enjoying just for money.
That is damaging.
If I had it damages them. Damages them deeply.
Sometimes they don't even give the sex too. Bruce, have you ever heard of what a pay pig is? Have you ever heard of this term? Pay pig?
No.
Brenda, have you ever heard of what a pay pig is?
No.
Right? Yeah. So this is a concept where a man just gets off on becoming broke by giving all of his money to a woman and getting nothing in return, except maybe text message conversations or something like that. But
I could help him with that. That's work to do.
Yeah. I mean, they film it on TikTok now. You see these women make the men get on their knees, put on a dog collar, and hand the money up to them and say, "This is for you, my goddess," and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just terrible. That's terrible.
I saw in another video that there's a chemical in the brain that is released when it's supposed to be to like encourage you to like do things selflessly for like your children and stuff. But when men do it through simping, it rewires their brain to actually like get a benefit from it chemically. And that's why you see them in those positions with like the dog collars and all that dominance type stuff, is they're getting that chemical like hit that they need.
Are you talking about vasopressin?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jesus
Or her
Christ.
girlfriends are doing it.
Yes.
You know?
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So typically, right?
Hey, what is his name? Fresh.
Real name is Walter.
I have seen plenty of their content. I have never heard his name before on the show.
Yeah. Walter
If your dating
Weeks.
strategy works with either men or women, you're gonna do it over and over again because it works, right? So I used to wonder, okay, I'm out here dating. I'm still in the dating market. Why is it every girl is trying to position herself to make money instantly or within that time frame of meeting somebody?
Right.
Instantly.
Right.
And it's because prior to meeting you or somebody else, she's been given this multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, it's like, why did I date you for free when they're paying me just to be around?
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, like, to keep it real with you, I get it because, bro, you're getting paid just to go on a fucking date.
Yeah.
I think you guys understand, like, dating market has been cooked for a while anyway, but it's more relevant now because you can see it in real time. And it was crazy that, like, pay for play hasn't always been in your face, but now it is.
Mm-hmm.
And for most men, if you can't pay to play, nigga, you're out the game.
Well, and because the women who are, attractive are literally in the fucking 1%.
Yo, a guy in a Ferrari, a guy in a Lambo, a guy in a fucking G-Wagon, it's in on you.
Dude.
Constantly.
And so you are damn near a fucking celebrity because you are not even in the 1%. You're in the top 1% if you're hot.
Well,
if you're hot, you have nice tits, nice ass, cute face, young, you're in the 0.0 something percent.
Do you know why girls do OnlyFans? Some of them? Because it's a marketing tick. So, for example, if I am a hot girl and no one really knows me, I don't get much leverage or attention. But if I do OnlyFans and do content, I'm out there constantly.
I see
So
what you're saying.
guys that have money or want to simp on me, now they can find me. Here's my Cash App. Here's my email. And they get booked. They get things paid for.
So the coffee dates are frowned upon because the average simp is inflating their value, right? Artificially, okay? And if we continue on here, you can see that here's the truth. If a woman is genuinely interested, she will meet you for a very casual date. If she likes you, she likes you. But a woman's expectations are now being elevated.
I have to stop it because I mean I'm playing this. We've already talked about all of this already. I don't know if it's even worth playing it. Is there anything more you want to add to this?
No, just like I said, again, all responsibility falls on men. Okay. Bottom line, we're the ones who lead revolutions. We're the ones who changed history. Men are, when Adam earlier, you're saying like men are problem solvers. It's very clear when you look at the amount of female inventions versus male inventions. You can't even hold a candle to it. It's like a 90% plus male invention rate versus females, right? And so the simping thing here, this is like the war of our time for these young men. And the reason this is happening is because men have been displaced as the home. America is the only country that I've seen where men are consistently berated, attacked, and demonized by corporations and governments who are in bed with each other to extort the population. Let's be real about that, right? And so while we consistently demonize men, we took Christianity out of our culture and we trained it for consumerism. And now look at what we have. We have a fat, depressed, sexless society that's only getting worse.
So the solution is, well, your solution for men is the 4 things you mentioned at the very beginning, right? Money, muscles,
Game and frame.
Game and frame. So what can you talk about frame a little bit more? Because I think that, you know, obviously being successful, men can understand that's important. Being in shape, going to the gym, that's understandable. Game, we could talk about. I think maybe we have a different take on some of that. But frame is not something that I hear talked about a lot in our circles. And I think you were saying that it's like it's the masculinity frame. Is that what frame means to you? Or
Okay, so my frame is separate from Bruce's frame, which is separate from Adam's frame, right? And it is your personal code. It is your personal code of conduct for yourself and how you expect others to treat you as well, right? And young men these days don't have any backbones. They just go along with everything. I see these young men go to a restaurant, they'll order like a chicken pasta plate, and they'll put down fish in front of the guy, and he'll be like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll just eat it. Whatever. I don't care." You know what I mean? Their girlfriend says,
he
"Hey,
put
I'm
down the wrong thing. He ordered something different, and he didn't speak up for himself." Is what you're saying?
correct."
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
It's micro like that, and then it's situations where, you know, his girlfriend says like, "I'm going to go on a girls trip with all my friends, and you can't come, and we're going to go to Cabo, Mexico, to this foam party," and the guy doesn't want to lose her, right? And he says, "Oh, okay, you can go." But nothing good is going to happen if you're taking 4 girls going to a foam party in Mexico, in another country. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, they're going to.
but these guys, yeah, because if I'm dating a girl and she says she's doing that, I say, "Yeah, you can go, but
don't come back.
You're being demoted to mistress. You're no longer main girl. Like that's because that's the frame you have, and men have to learn to stand up to themselves. The problem, if I could universally sum it up, frame is teaching men how to be leaders first with themselves. Because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anybody. You can't lead a household. You can't lead anything, right? You have to understand, what is your personal code of conduct? What are your rules? You know, what are your 10 commandments, if you will, right?
Yeah, your
and
core
then
values.
exactly your terms, like you said, the terms, right? And this frame concept is very, very strong and popular in the manosphere. And we're teaching these men how to have self-respect, because the way you enforce boundaries and you enforce your frame is you just simply let the person know, "Hey, listen, you spoke to me in a very disrespectful way. I don't appreciate that, and I would like you not to do that anymore." And if they do it again, you say, "Okay, well, listen, have a nice day," and you don't talk to them anymore. You just step away. If they want to change their behavior, if they want to apologize, if they say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know that offended you," right? That's okay. But a lot of men, like I said, they're just being stripped of all like self-respect. They're doormats. They're, like I said, we used to have a country of stallions. Now we have a country of mules, and no woman wants to date a mule. You know, they just don't.
You know, there's a book that Brenda has recommended that I've read now. It's called Masculine in Relationship. Youngblood, I think is his name, the author. Have you heard of it?
No.
So one of the things that he thinking about frame and like the man who orders the thing and the wrong thing comes and he just accepts it. In the book he talks about I don't think he calls it this, but being like an unapologetic pedestrian. In other words, you get this thing sometimes where you're in your car and you're driving, and there's a man who has the right of way to walk in front of your car, but he just shrinks down and scurries and like apologizes as he's moving across, even though he had the right of way. Where, like, you know, a confident man would just maybe acknowledge the car and walk at his own pace, standing upright, you know, and that's an example of frame, I think.
Yeah, it's know your rights, because, you know, again, in America, they are psyoping these young men into being doormats. Because if you look at, because this really started at the beginning of the second term of the Obama administration. And that's when they created this lie that they said 1 in 4 women who went to colleges were SA'd. You know, we're on YouTube, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what the Obama administration said was like, you universities now, you have to create your own kangaroo courts and go after this in your universities. Otherwise, we're going to cut off federal funding. And that means you get no Pell Grants. That means you get no FAFSA, get no student loans. And so that's where they first started that. And then when social media came out, so from like 2012 to about 2022, you had about a 10-year campaign that all it did was break men down. It was telling men, you're toxically masculine. You know, women are complaining now because no one approaches them. You know why? Because we've been hearing about Me Too. We've been hearing about false rape allegations. We've been hearing about all of these things. We see women complaining on social media. Oh, these guys are creepy. They talk to me, blah, 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 blah. Now, guys are like, all right, we're just not going to talk to you now. We're on social media. Nobody talks to me. Why is nobody approaching me? You know, and it just shows you that, you know, this is clearly by design in order to financially extort women, make them debt slaves, and manipulate them to get votes. Because one of the strongest, largest voter blocks in the United States of America is women, right? And politicians don't care about women. They don't care about anybody. They only care about enriching themselves. And the thing is, women are just women are more susceptible to propaganda than men are. And if you look at the data, again, it's working hook, line, and sinker. We're starting to see some balance now because men are now coming out and they are now, you know, counter shaming women for their bad behavior, right? Because you had this whole corporate push of all of this stuff in movies, in video games, in music, in television shows, in news. Everything in America is just talking about how terrible men are and how women are always the victim. And then, like I said, it was really apparent to me because when I went and lived in Japan, you know, I would see a different media. The commercials in Japan show men and women getting along. They show like a man spilling some ketchup on his shirt and the woman's like, don't worry, I've got this cleaning product. I'm going to clean it. And she cleans the guy's shirt off. He looks good. He's putting on his tie to go to work. His wife is fixing him up. And there's happiness. There's joy. Right? Their families are still intact over there. And on the counter side, if you look at a lot of American movies and media drama, it's always some girl rolling her eyes at some idiot guy who just can't keep it together. And that's everywhere. And when people watch this stuff, they do believe it's real. You are influenced by the media that you consume, whether you like it or not. And when it's in the music, when it's in the education, when it's on television, when governments are telling you, when corporations are telling you, the men have shrunk. They're like, okay, we're terrible, we're evil, toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is only pushed in westernized countries. They don't talk about this.
Would you say that there's a pushback on it though? Because like, if you look at the like movies you were talking about, what they're doing now, what I've noticed in movies that all suck now, it seems like, is what they're doing is they're taking that hero's journey that is typically, that's a man's life, is a hero's journey. And so they're like creating these roles for women to be the hero's journey. And they're trying to make it the same as they do for men in movies. And I understand what they're trying to do, but people just don't want to see that for whatever reason. Yeah. They associate the hero's journey with men. They don't associate it with women. So it's like, is there some pushback in the box office numbers of movies was my question.
Oh, 1,000%, because it doesn't work. People don't want to see that. Like, you know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right? And why did everybody like Luke Skywalker? He was a young hero. He was thinking he was going to go. He's like, I'm ready. I'm going to go get Darth Vader. And what does Darth Vader do? He messes him up, cuts his hands off, and throws him off of the ship, right? And Luke has to go back and he has to reflect and he has to go to Yoda and he has to say, man, I messed up. My dad cut my hand off. He kicked me out of this spaceship. I'm here on Dagobah in the middle of this swamp friggin' planet, like with this crazy old guy teaching me some stuff, right? People loved it. Now, fast forward to the new Star Wars. You have Rey. Rey doesn't have a hero's journey. She has a perversion of it. She's immediately picks up a lightsaber. She knows how to use it. She's super strong with a force out of nowhere. She goes and meets Luke, and he's like this old, pathetic man. And he's like, you know, drinking the cow's milk. They humiliated him, right? And that was in The Last Jedi in 2017.
Yeah.
And that right there really pissed off the people you shouldn't piss off, which is the nerds. The nerd men who are like, look, we get it. Women don't like us. We're going to go play our board games over here. We're going to have our own little nerd world where we can be nerds together. And then the feminist movement, led by Kathleen Kennedy at the time, who was producing those films, wearing shirts like the Force is female, you know, bastardizing Han Solo, killing him off, bastardizing Luke Skywalker, killing him off. And the whole thing was the biggest blight on the Disney record under Bob Iger. You know what I'm saying? And the box office for the Force Awakens movie, it did really well. And they're like, oh, it's because of Rey. No, it's because you saw Luke Skywalker at the end and you're like, oh my God, Luke Skywalker's going to come back and kill everybody. And then they all got excited to go see the second one. And he's this old, depressed hermit who's bitter. And then they kill him off at the end. And then the third movie flopped as well. Nobody liked it. Rey is not an iconic Disney character, or not iconic Star Wars character. And people didn't respect her because she didn't go through the hero's journey. And you can write a good woman for the hero's journey, because I'm a movie buff. I'm going to add this last part. Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. Amazing, amazing movie. Female-led movie, right? Because she went through the hero's journey. All of her friends got killed in the first movie. Then she had to go in cryo sleep, you know, and then she had to go, and she had, and they used the femininity of her because she found the little girl, and she's like, that's true femininity. That's true female nature there. She's like, fuck all these aliens. Give me that machine gun. Give me the flamethrower. I'm going in there. I'm killing everybody. And I'm getting that little girl out of here. And that's an iconic movie of American culture right there. So the new movies now, they're perverting everything. They're perverting the natural order. And the box office numbers show Supergirl was a total flop. Nobody wants to see a drunken, idiot, foul-mouthed Supergirl. It was the biggest flop in DC history.
Marvel.
Oh, no, Supergirl's DC. Oh, yeah, Captain Marvel. Don't even get me started on that.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, Brie Larson. What a winner.
Yeah. Anyways, we haven't heard from Bruce or Brenda in a while. What are you thinking over there, you two?
All this testosterone swirling around. I don't want to get in the way of it. You know, we need more of that. We need more of the, you know, toxic masculinity. You know, like we talked about last week. Masculinity isn't toxic. It's the illusion of masculinity that's toxic.
Right.
Because true masculinity is a protector, the provider, the make shit happen, versus, you know, as long, you know, just to go back to not returning the dish that wasn't delivered properly. I ordered pasta, I got fish. I don't want fish. But I'm, you know, on a date, a man that says, oh, that's all right, I'll eat it anyway. The woman's going to say, no, send it back. That's not what you ordered. Take a stand for yourself. If you can't take a stand for yourself, are you going to take a stand for me?
Right.
But the qualifier is don't be an asshole when you're doing it.
Right.
You know, just have your leadership skills. Like, waiter, please come over here. This isn't what I ordered. Please bring me what I ordered.
Yeah.
And then the thing is when.
So I would just real quick, I would definitely demand by correct order, but I've worked in a restaurant. You do not be rude to anyone in a restaurant.
Yes, me too.
Mess with your food.
Yes.
Well, and beside the fact, I mean, that's a funny consequence. Not very funny if you're the one getting it, but you deserve it if you're an asshole.
Yeah.
But you know, the fact of the matter is, if I'm the woman sitting in front of you and you don't send it back, then I'm not going to respect you. And if you're a jerk to the waiter who probably had not, they're probably overworked, understaffed, underpaid, all the things, then you got to be respectful. You got to show who you are in those instances. And if the waiter is just an idiot, then talk to the manager. You don't have to put up with it, but you also don't have to be a jerk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the thing is, what? Oh, go ahead, Bruce. Go ahead.
I would just say that in the world of dating, if a man wants to be successful in the world of dating, he has to find his place amongst the men first. He has to establish his place in the male hierarchy, because that's where a man gets grounded, right? And that's where he develops his terms, and the women, a lot of times they value a man's status based on how other men see him. How other men see him is how they value him. So again, it all comes back to being with the men, finding your place amongst the men, your place in the male hierarchy, and it doesn't matter where that place is, whether it's in the middle or the top or the bottom, because it's organic, and you can move up and down the male hierarchy depending on who you are and what your actions, how you evolve. But all that is the foundation from which you move into the dating world, because that's the only way you're going to hold firm, as you're saying, instead of giving away everything that you have and not having a firm place to stand. You look like a wishy-washy idiot. So,
well, the personality, who you build yourself to be as a man amongst men becomes your identity, and your identity is going to determine your behaviors, and your behaviors is what you're putting out there into the world to attract good sex.
I think a lot of this online social stuff is driving men. I think you mentioned it earlier, Jonathan, is putting men back to their tendencies. When they get wounded, they become lone wolves, and so they're isolated. And when you isolate a man, nothing good happens. And we call it being upstairs and being downstairs in your life. And a man will move into both places, upstairs and downstairs. But when you're downstairs, you have to realize you're there and reach a hand up to other men to get you pulled out. And when you're upstairs in your life, you notice the men in your life who are down, you pull them up. And it's up to men to keep men strong so that they can go and lead the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And what Brenda was saying earlier about, how she would tell the guy, hey, send the food back, right? The thing is, when a lot of these guys, right, they don't know how to stand up for themselves. They don't know how to live themselves. And when a woman is in a relationship with a guy where she's constantly have to correcting him, constantly having to help him, now she feels like his mother. And now she's like, I don't want to date this guy. He's a baby. Like, I want a man.
He doesn't want to be treated like a mother. So it's a lose-lose situation all the way around, just because a man hasn't developed leadership skills. And you're right, Jonathan. You have to learn these things. We're not necessarily born knowing these things. We have to learn them. So men need to be with men, good, strong, solid men, and learn how to be men, and then be that man for other men.
Yeah. And, in other countries, like, for example, China recently understood that the men were becoming very feminized in their country. And now they are pushing for all schools to have at least 50% men and 50% women in regards to teachers, because you do need a healthy balance of masculine energy and feminine energy. But again, it all goes back to what I believe to be a sinister design, because they are like, I don't agree with teaching children about homosexual things at all. I don't agree with that. And then that's stuff that's being pushed in our education, and it's being celebrated and stuff mainly by women. And you are doing something very foul to that child. The average American doesn't know what a carbohydrate is. They don't know what their macros are. They don't know what a protein is. They don't know what a fat is. I was an English teacher before I started taking off online in Japan. And what they do from age 6 and 5 for the kids is all the food is nutritiously prepared by a bunch of women downstairs in the kitchen. And then before they eat, they're saying, this is what's in the food today. These are the carbs. These are the protein. This is how many calories. This is healthy, And in America, we're feeding them slop. We're feeding them square pizzas, chocolate milk, garbage, candies, all this trash, because
Vending
these big
machines.
vending machines, these big corporations are again infiltrating every part of our lives. And again, a family can defend themselves way more than an individual. And isolation is what's happening now to men and women in America. And you're isolated, you're alone. And guess what that means? Instead of two people in one house paying one rent, you got one person paying one rent, one paying rent over here. Electricity, cell phone, internet, water, right? And then you have these two houses. Everything is just financially more lucrative when you isolate everybody. And it's got to the point now where you don't even have to leave your house. You can order DoorDash. You can finance your DoorDash stuff now. You can take out loans and finance your delivery services. And as home cooking rates are going down consistently in the United States of America, cancer rates are going up because people are consistently eating out. Eating out is a very American thing, right? It's not like the same, like when you go to these other countries, like, you know, when you have breakfast in Japan, the average typical Japanese breakfast is a little bowl of rice, a piece of grilled fish, and some miso soup with some green tea. You're looking at maybe 400 calories. The average American breakfast is Trix, you know, Lucky Charms, you know, waffles, Eggos, you know, all these things that are making you fat. And then if you really want to get really sinister, I mean, Brenda, you used to work in the gym industry. If you followed the food pyramid, you're going to be fat. If you're eating 8 to 11 servings of grains every day, 8 cups of rice, 8 slices of bread, you're done. You're fat. And it's over. You know, so again, it just seems to me, you know, because I'm a little bit of a schizo. Like I see all these patterns and stuff. I can't live a normal life, you know, and I see this stuff and I can't keep it inside. And that's why I built this brand. And, you know, when I first started my brand, I was just praying to God. I was like, God, if I could just make $15,000 a year, I will feel like I'm not a loser. And then I went online and I started producing all this content and my business blew up. And I just had no idea how lost these men are. And I started in 2015 and I'm watching as I get older, everything is getting worse. It's not getting better. And so here we are.
Couldn't agree more. So, hey, I got a question for you. Are you, I don't want to ask you how old you are. I'm going to guess that you are late 30s, early 30s.
40. I just turned 40.
You turned 40. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a wife and a family? Do you want that in your life, or are you so black-pilled that you're like, you know?
No. I've always had some loving, beautiful woman in my life. I just never put her online or talk about it because I don't want to endanger her. Because a lot of people, you know, there was a time when I was really, really, really popular, and people found my mom's information. They posted her address online. They posted her photos. And I was in Japan at the time, and my mom was terrified. And, you know, and I couldn't even defend her. And luckily, I reported those videos, and I aggressively, it took me, you know, almost a year to get these things down. But I've always had some amazing woman in the background. I just don't choose to parade her on social media for my benefit because there is no upside to it. There is just, I'm only endangering her.
I guess I just assumed that you were single. I don't know why I did that. But are you married?
No, I'm not married.
Okay.
No, I'm not married. Because I really don't believe in the governmental institute of marriage because it puts men in a very financially crippling state if a divorce were to occur. You know, but I do agree with like the traditional marriage. I tell guys that, you know, because I've gone out, I've slept with a lot of women, right? I had my fun, but there's 2 levels of dating, okay? It's like when you go from you have nothing and now you're having sex, right? But only having sex can satisfy you for so long. And eventually, both men and women, they're looking for emotional intimacy. They're looking for a woman that they can relate to, a woman who can hear their troubles and support him on his journey. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think
Bonding.
that's the key. Yeah, exactly. The emotional intimacy. And I think that's the most important thing that men and women should seek, because women are being told the only men that are worthy of you are 6 foot tall, 6-figure salary, and 6-pack abs, right? Which is like a 1% of a 1%.
Well, they
If
all
you're
deserve the
chasing
best.
that kind of guy,
Every woman deserves the best, right?
it's not reality. It's just not
Well,
going to
That's
happen.
that
There's not
she
enough
can
best.
attract.
There's not enough best to go around, right?
That's the trick, is to, you know, find the person, the best that you can attract.
You got to get in where you fit in, you know? Right?
Yeah.
I talk about the McDonald's menu often, right? So if I go to, every time I go to McDonald's and I look at the fillet of fish, I'm like, that is disgusting. Who the hell is buying a fillet of fish, right? But it's on the menu because there's somebody who out here that's been buying fillet of fish for decades, and that's why McDonald's has it on the menu. So if you're a fillet of fish guy, don't go after a girl who only likes Big Macs, because she's never gonna like you. You know, find the women that like you. You know, I'm not 6 foot tall. I don't have 6-pack abs. I'm not some giga Chad, but I have a lot of personality traits that make me a very nice guy to date. And I've not had any problem finding quality women to date me. So you just have to get in where you fit in, because some women will look at me and be like, oh, Jonathan is disgusting. I would never date that guy. He's ugly. And other women are like, I would sell everything I could be to be with Jonathan. Like I would do anything to be with him. And there's women like that for men, and there's men like that for women. So you have to know your value, you have to know your worth, and you got to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated.
Okay, that brings up another topic, and Brenda agrees with you. She gave you the jazz hands.
Yeah.
Applause.
Jazz.
There's this concept of passport bros, right?
Yes.
Bruce, have you heard of this? Passport bros?
Yeah, I think you explained it to me once, but I can't remember what it meant.
So I'll let Jonathan tell us.
So what's happening right now, because as you know, men are problem solvers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the situation in America is just mathematically not in the favor of the average guy. So they're just taking their passports and they're going to other countries. You know, they're going to places like Japan, they're going to places like Korea, going to places like Vietnam, they go to South America, they go to Mexico, and they just present themselves there in that market, and they let the girls know, like, hey, I'm American, I'm just down here. And the women in these countries have far more femininity, they're far more traditional, they're far more family oriented, and they haven't been indoctrinated with feminist brainwashing their entire life like the average American woman has been. And, you know, they're just better mates if you look at what's happening. And so when you look at the situation in America, the amount of men and Americans in general leaving America right now is increasing every year. And in 2025 was the first time since the 1920s Great Depression where more Americans left America than people came into it. That's the first time in 70 plus years.
That's crazy.
And it's only going to continue. It's only going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
The smart men, at least, you know, the smart
So
men.
there's another thing called looks maxing. This is where men are like doing like cosmetic surgery on their face, or like wearing makeup, or just doing all kinds of crazy things. I know. In order to compete.
That's the only appropriate reaction.
So there's this influencer, this YouTuber named Clavicular, that is the face literally of this looks maxing, and you know he's like known for being able to like break down like what your features are, like the top third of your face is not symmetrical, and the crowning of your this and that, and like he breaks it all down, like your face, you know, like. And so why you would get like plastic surgery to like enhance certain like other things, right? So this dude, I don't know, he's probably mid-20s, and he's very young.
He's 21.
He's 20. Oh, wow, 21. And so he's obviously, you know, good looking. At least, you know, women would probably back that up, that he's good looking. and he's like a millionaire or multi-millionaire because he's a
Multi.
multi-millionaire because he's a successful YouTuber, right? He is leaving the country to go find better odds in the dating market. He is a good-looking multi-millionaire 21-year-old in America, and he's going somewhere else.
And he's famous.
Yeah, he's got stature, you know.
Yep.
That's kind of shocking.
Like I said, you know, and the thing is, women will hear this stuff and they'll roll their eyes at it and stuff, but if they just don't understand what men are going through, because, you know, America is set up to cater to women, right? That's how that whole country is, because America is no longer a country. It's just a big business. And these guys are just looking at the landscape and thinking to themselves, so wait a minute, I have to work and work and work and slave away, and I'm not going to have any sex. If I do get a girl, you know, statistically speaking, she's not going to be ideally what I want, because again, they're non-existent. They're non-existent. I mean, they exist, but it's like you're looking at, in a best case scenario, about a million women that are attractive, have relationship skills, won't cheat, not on SSRIs, right? Have relationship skills.
No kids.
That's no kids, not fat, right? It's a very small percentage. And so men are just logical problem solvers, and they're going to these other countries, and they're just, you know, I'm in the Philippines now, and I just see tons of American guys here that are just like, yeah, I'm just going to settle down and have like a nice, calm life here in the Philippines. I'm on my military pension. I'm on my business pension. I only make $6,000-7,000 a month, but you can have a wife, you can have kids. And the Philippines is a very family-oriented society, you know. And when I've landed here, I truly feel like I can feel the spirit of God in this country. There's something when I'm in America that just feels so sinister. And when I'm in America, I just feel like I'm just being drained. It is a very draining experience, you know. And I felt the same way when I went to Toronto and Canada, when I went to the UK, all of these very westernized countries that are pushing this feminist agenda. Feminism isn't making anything better for anyone. You can't honestly say feminism has made women's lives better when all the data shows they are fat and drugged up on SSRIs, miserable, single, and they can't get a relationship. And the men are being demonized in the process too. Everybody's suffering.
I want to do a segment called "Feminism is Done," meaning we did it. We did it! Yay! Women have equal rights. It's over. It's done. And because we continue to push it, it's going too far in the other direction.
Yeah,
you know, it's becoming unequal again on the other side. So,
and then because what's happening is in corporate America, right? When you have that boardroom meeting at the end of every year, they want profits to go up every single year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's an endless cycle, and then the general population are the victims of this. You know. Yeah. And so that's what's happening, because they just want to squeeze more and more and more out of both men and women. You know, pornography is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You think women are the main consumers of pornography? No. And pornography ruins men. It ruins their lives. It is not some harmless thing. Now you're having the proliferation of OnlyFans, and you're telling these young women, yeah, girl, you get out there, you can show your naked body, $4.99 a month, and you'll be a millionaire. And the average girl who starts an OnlyFans and goes out there, she makes about $150 a month. And now she permanently has her naked photos all over the internet.
I always wonder what mom and dad think when they find their darling daughter's OnlyFans account. I couldn't even imagine being that girl, knowing that my neighbors, my teacher, my future children. It's like, wow.
Men allowed it. Men are the consumers of it. Men allow it. We are the problem, and we are the solution.
Yes. Yep. So like I said, my message is just for men, because I'm a man. And ultimately, men need to get their backbones back. Men need to learn how to be leaders. And the most important thing a leader says is the word no. Okay, because if you want to, like, if you look at like Moses and the Israelites, right? If Moses had listened to all the Israel, I mean, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, right? Because everybody was bitching and moaning. Moses was like, all right, I guess we'll stop. Okay, we'll do this, right? But if they would have just followed God's plan and they would have just followed what the plan was, they would have got to the promised land way faster. So the thing is, for example, I used to be in the Boy Scouts, right? Now they got rid of the Boy Scouts. Now it's the Scouts. And guess what? Now they're a bankrupt organization, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're every little safe space for men has been invaded. Now there's all these like cosplay girls that invade the nerd conventions and stuff to get a fan base and financially extort these guys as well. I used to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play a lot of Star Wars things. And I would go to like my little nerd corner. I would sneak away from my girlfriend at the time. And I didn't even let her know I was going to these nerd things, right? She thought I was cheating on her. She followed me one day secretly. And she's like, what are you doing here? I was like, what are you doing here? She's like, are you cheating on me? I was like, no, I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At this card shop. I just didn't want you to think I was a nerd. And then she was like, I'm so sorry. But like these, like where, because you want to talk about why the manosphere blew up? Because there's no more physical places for men to go and be men.
Manosphere refers to the world of podcasters and YouTubers that are talking about red pill content. I would say led by Rollo Tomasi. Would you say he's like he's one of the starters of all of that? And then, Myron Gaines.
Rollo wrote The Rational Male, which is a very good beginner's handbook for men to get a kind of, a fast understanding of the true understanding of what works in female and male relationships and what doesn't. Myron Gaines, I would say, has probably surpassed him. And I don't know if you know this, but Myron actually was one of my students in 2019.
No.
And then I taught him a lot of the stuff that he now knows. And I taught him a lot of the digital marketing things. And I was working with him behind the scenes when he built Fresh and Fit. That's why I could pick up the phone and go on Fresh and Fit anytime I want.
Oh, wow.
Myron's a great friend of mine. And a lot of these Manosphere guys, I've worked with all of these guys. And I would say the biggest name in the Manosphere, if we were to do hierarchy right now, probably at the top of it is Andrew Tate, just based on his popularity. Number 2 is Myron Gaines in regards to popularity. And then number 3, probably somewhere there, Rollo. And Kevin Samuels unfortunately passed away. He was a really big guy in the Manosphere as well.
Yeah,
he was. I think they killed him personally.
Really?
Insert conspiracy theorist here.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't want a black man leading and helping the black community. And he just randomly died of a heart attack out of nowhere in his hotel room with a girl who happened to be a nurse. I don't know. Maybe I'm conspiracy theorist, but I don't know. But
for another,
I don't know. Just was a little too fishy for my type.
Yeah. Well, you probably don't know anything about us. Ignite Your Weekends Ignite is the name of the organization. Bruce is on the board, as well as some others, and I'm one of the presenters. Bruce is a presenter at the physical weekends themselves. We do men's and women's weekends where we get together, like I say, in person for a 3-day event, typically at a convention hall in a hotel. And the next one we have coming up is in November in Vancouver, November 5th, 6th, and 7th. Is that right?
6, 7, 8.
Sorry, I get that wrong every time. November 6th, 7th, 8th in Vancouver. And then there's a men's weekend in April, and same in Vancouver as well. 23rd.
Yeah, 23rd, 24th, 25th. Yeah.
And we talk about all this stuff, and what's great is we get these men and these women in a room, and we put down the phones, we put down the technology, we put down all distractions, and we try to go over as much of this information as we can about the healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy that's needed back in the world today. And that's why we started this podcast, The Third Entity, third entity being what is created between a man and a woman in a long-term relationship that is supported by the masculine and the feminine energy, right? And so that's our mission. That's why we talk about all this stuff. Our man behind the scenes, Lee, just put in the chat some links if anybody wants to check us out. But yeah, we're trying to spread the word, man. We're trying to do, like we were talking about earlier, the more eyeballs that we can get in front of to talk about this stuff, just have honest conversations, I think the better that the more of an impact we can have, and that we can solve this problem, we can solve these issues and create happier and healthier households.
Yeah, and it's not even solving them, it's just making people aware.
Sure.
Because that's all you can really do, make them aware of what the landscape looks like.
And introduce them to a community. I'm sorry. And introduce them to a community of peers. You know, women learn the power of being with women. So many women go to the women's weekends like, I don't have female friends. I don't trust women. All my friends are men. Then they come out the other side. It's like, all right. So that's one of the things I got from my women's weekend is relationships with women. And the same with what we were talking about through much of this podcast today is men need men. And when you have a supporting community of your gender and your peers, then you have a place to go to solve the problems that you're having personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good. I think honestly, we need as much help as we can get because, we have forsaken our culture as Americans. We have forsaken our Christian values of this country. And we have forsaken the natural order of things, which man is the leader, protector, provider, woman is the nurturer, supporter, and then you impart those things into your children. Like in the Bible, it says, when a man and woman, join, they become one flesh. You know what I mean? A man leaves his family behind, a woman leaves her family behind, and they start their new thing. And that's what we have to get back to, because in America, it's like, I feel like a damn near criminal. Sometimes I walk into some places, women just assume I'm a fucking piece of crap. It's like there is a hostility towards men in that culture compared to when I was living in Japan or overseas. One time me and my friends were doing some pull-ups in the park and some nice Japanese girls stopped to watch us, and we got done doing our pull-ups. They were like, "Wow, you guys are so strong. You did a good job. Congratulations." And then they just left. They're not at each other's throats. And the sad thing about American women is they have the most resources, the best economy, everything that could literally make them the best women in the world. But unfortunately, the propaganda machine by these corporations and governments are tricking these women to become debt slaves their whole life and telling them this is a more fulfilling thing than having a child, having a family, being because like if you're a woman at a corporation, if the balance sheet says you're not performing, you're gone. But if you have a family at home and your mom, people do everything for mom, like good children, good husband. A mother is irreplaceable. There's nothing better than a mother's love on this planet. Right? When we're sick, we feel terrible. We don't want our dad to come in and give us a steak and rub our head. Like, you're going to be okay, son. You want mom coming in there with some soup. Like, are you okay, honey? Let me take care of you. That's what we want. And we're robbing women of the greatest gift they can have, which my opinion is the gift of being a mother. And like I said, that's what women are here to do. You have to become a mom or we all die. So like, what are we doing here? It doesn't make any sense if you track everything back to what it looks like it's all about money.
Yeah. And again, we have to say, not all women need to have children, but enough of them do that we replace ourselves, right? Otherwise, we don't have anybody to maintain the infrastructure of the country anymore. And that's a humanitarian crisis if you think about it, because it's not like just one day we would blink out of existence. It would be a lot of suffering. It would be a lot of ugliness in this
slow,
country.
painful decline.
Yeah. So
that's what we're in right now.
Yeah, right.
We're in it right now. We're in it right now. Like I said, a woman who really doesn't want to have kids is, in my opinion, the equivalent of a guy saying, you know what, I just don't want to work my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to work. I just want to stay home and play video games and smoke weed.
Yeah.
Do people respect that kind of man?
Yeah, and I think the biological, just like a man wants to have that hero's journey, like we talked about. He doesn't want to sit in his basement and play video games. That he wouldn't pick that life. He would want the hero's journey. As a matter of fact, the video games that he's playing are hero's journeys. They're mini hero's journeys that he gets to live out in his life instead of actually going to do one for himself. But same with women, with the biological clock. I think that they can be convinced in their younger years, hey, go have fun, go do what you want, go find yourself, whatever that means. And then eventually they do realize in their 30s that they're like, you know what though, I have this urge, I have this feeling like I do want to have a child. Like it's not even something that we really need to encourage necessarily. I mean, maybe to counterbalance what's happening now, but I'm just saying, like, naturally, like, women have this urge to want to have children.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, nature. Two things can be true at the same time. You can be fully self-actualized and have a family at the same time. It's how do you go about it? You can have it all but there's a way to go about it. And for women, going about it in a masculine achiever perspective isn't going to get you the life that's going to fulfill you as a woman, typically.
Yeah.
100%.
I would say that having it all would be, because, I mean, can't we all agree that the best situation for children to grow up in is being raised by their parents? Like, not being farmed out to like somebody else to raise them, right? I think that's the best situation for children. So having it all to me would be, if you're going to have a family, have a family. When the kids grow up, you want to have a career, go have a career. Why try to do both at the same time? A man would do that because a man cannot have babies. So it doesn't make sense for him to do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, it's just normal in other countries to just, like, I was dating this Japanese girl one time, and I asked her, I said, like, oh, do you know how to cook? She's like, of course I know how to cook. I'm a woman. She looked at me like I was crazy, but you talk to like these average chicks these days, they don't even know how to boil water. They outsource everything. And when you're outsourcing, there's no quality control. You know what I mean? When you're outsourcing DoorDash, when you're outsourcing people to watch your children in daycare, like, you're going to work to make, the average person makes $50,000, $60,000 a year, but your daycare is like, damn near $3,000 a month.
What's the point?
You're working just to pay for daycare. You're working to miss out on your children's lives.
Yeah.
And
with the cooking thing, it's almost, it became fashionable. It has become fashionable for a woman to be able to say, I don't know how to cook, because I don't need to. I don't need to know how to cook because of, why am I going to be the one that's cooking? So it ends up being this like statement of why they don't know how to cook is like a positive thing. Again, back to the fashionable.
Yeah, not just ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my philosophy now, I am pretty black-pilled on American culture in general, and I don't think it's going to get better. I think people can try, but I think that if you just look at the ultra wealthy millionaires and whatever, marriage rates are pretty okay. You know what I mean? Divorce rates way lower. They're just way more stable and stuff because these elites, they understand the power of family. They understand the power of sticking together. And again, like, I just had to double ACL surgery in December. And then I also had my pectoral. I ripped it when I was bench pressing, and I had a grade 3 rupture, and I had that repaired in January. And if I didn't have this wonderful woman with me taking care of me, because I went to Korea to get stem cells, because Korea leads the world in stem cell technology. So I had some stem cells done in my knees, and then I flew to Japan to have one of the best pectoral doctors in the world fix my pectoral. If this woman wasn't there taking care of me, I don't even know how the heck I would have survived. Because everybody thinks like, oh, I'll just get older and everything will be okay. That's not okay. It is a strategically bad thing to do to age alone. It is just not a good strategy. 2 is better than 1, and a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. That's from the Bible. And so again, like this whole strong, independent woman thing, like independent means you're alone. Like, did you not miss out? Did you miss out on that thing?
I love to follow that up whenever I hear that. Oh, I'm an independent woman. Independent of what? What is it exactly that you're independent of? And like men, like, oh, okay, you want to be independent of men? Why? We don't want to be independent of women. Wouldn't that be weird if I was walking around saying, I'm a strong, independent man. I don't need no woman. Like, what? Of course I need a woman.
They'd call you gay. That's what they would say. So it's just an asinine movement. And I truly believe now to have a happy, healthy, loving relationship where the man is thriving and the woman's thriving, because when you're in a good relationship together, both of you go up to the top. You both level up in the relationship, right? It's better for both people involved. And so that being said, I think that it is truly going to be a luxury to have a woman that loves you, have a man that loves you. It is now becoming a luxury item. And the average person is unfortunately heading towards relationship doom. The average man now is being born in a situation where he's going to die alone. And the same thing for the average woman. Because if men aren't getting married, women aren't getting married. Because people always want to say, oh, she's a single cat lady, she's going to die alone with a bunch of cats. That means there's a guy out there that's also going to die alone and be miserable and sad. So it's not a joke. It is the largest problem the American society has ever dealt with in the history of our generations here as Americans. And if we don't fix this, there is no economy, there is no America, and we're going to get invaded, and then we will fall as a nation.
By people that have a much higher birth rate.
And yeah,
well, that's a whole nother show. Okay, listen, this has been a great show. I can see the sun coming up behind you. It looks like
6:30 a.m. now. I'm awake now, so I'm this fired to be up.
Well, it's been great having you on our show. I think it was really cool that we highlighted you on the last one, and then you reached out, and then you're here. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Bruce or Brenda, that you wanted to say or ask, or before we wrap it up?
Thank you. It's been very pleasant to meet you. I'm glad to have heard from you, and I'm glad that we were all able to connect and share this space together.
Yeah, and I would just say that it's interesting. Pretty much everything you said aligns with just slightly different language. What we're doing in our weekends.
Yep.
Yeah, truth is universal. Truth is universal. And I think just, what I'll say in closing is, first and foremost, thanks for having me here to let me clarify in some points of my presentation. I know like my presentation it could be considered harsh for women to watch, but I didn't design it for women. I designed it for men. I'm trying to help as many men as possible. And that's why I did it in such a logical, math, statistic based way. Wasn't really colored with my opinion or facts or anything or my bias. It was just, I was trying to be as grounded as data as possible. It took me 3.5 months to do that. I used several AI to cross-reference my data to make sure everything was good. And so I just want to help guys out, because the number one thing that is ruining everything in America, it's simping. The guys you're giving your pearls to swine, and you shouldn't be doing that. You have to go where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated. And there is a woman out there for you. You just got to go find her. And dating for men, love for men, it's a numbers game. The number one thing men hear when we're pursuing women is also, get the hell out of here, right? That's just the nature of things. The majority of women will reject us. But you keep going, you keep refining your strategy, And the more women you date, the more things you realize you like, and the more things you realize you dislike. And then you can idealize, or you can find your ideal mate based upon getting out there and getting some experience.
Well, again, thank you for coming on. Everybody, check out modernlifedating.com as well. And your podcast, too. I've been watching your different shows on your podcast. Very informative. And I was telling
Thank
Bruce,
you.
too, I think a lot of the stuff you talk about on your podcast is like, it's right in line with what we're talking about, too. So, all right, brother. Thanks for coming on. Let's keep in touch. Maybe we can collaborate again and do something else.
Yeah, definitely. Come on my show. We'll talk.
Awesome. I will.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Bye.
Cold in my pocket, breath like a match, velvet